Testing, 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 testing. I think this one's better. Testing. I think this one's better. Okay, this is it. Do do do. Okay, so we're back here, and for some reason the side chat channel's not working. Hang on. Let's fix this real quick, and we'll get right. This is going to be, well, the content will be long, just like me, as Pusheen agrees. But our the stuff I'm going to talk about is going to be very short. So, and we're still going to be doing different tests. We're actually going to be doing tests tomorrow at our venue for our meetup on Friday, which I'll give details about in a moment. But let's get the chat back on here. So I'm going to go in. Let's see what the problem is. Copy. Okay. Let's try turning the chat on and off again. For some reason, the chat just does not want to load. That is so bizarre. Hang on. Let me just look. 310 by 580. Okay. So I'm gonna get rid of it. Let's add a new chat. Because we try to leave everything the way it normally is, and there we go, things happen. So now we have our chat. So test, and then we'll get the show on the road. Yep, everything seems to work. Hi, Social Club. Welcome to this special live stream. And because we often have people who follow us when we're not on the actual stream, and let me actually, if there's a double loop, let me turn off the desktop audio. That should help a lot. We want to thank some people who followed us like a while ago. So thank you, Speedy NYC, Pseudo Social Club, which I said hi to, Benjamino 21, Eric 0373, T Fujiwara, ES North. Wow, there's a lot. But why don't you follow us on stream so you get the cool alerts? Blask Sense, RTCMS, Akaturz. I'm not kidding, it has 4 Z's at the end. And Rick Shook for following us before we broadcasted. Let me just take a sip here for the hydration squad. So, for those of you who are wondering, you're probably noticing that I'm not NCommander. Not that I don't want to be. He's a cool, sexy-looking dude and knows a lot of stuff, but NCommander's not on tonight. You probably noticed he's not been on for like the past 2 or 3 weeks, and it's quite simple. It's because, and also let me know if you can hear me, okay. But I'm not going to disclose details. I'm not going to dox him on like what's going on Twitter right now, which we'll get into. But he's just been going through a hell month. Like as soon as July started, just Murphy's Law just whipped out its giant thing and went directly through him from the bottom outside the top of his head. Again, I'm not going to say any details. He's currently physically fine. I'm not sure other members of people he loves are fine, to give a hint about that. But that's why he hasn't been doing the hack all NCommanders. And so we are going to get him back on eventually. I actually hope to see him possibly in person this Friday. And I also would encourage everyone out there who follows us at DEFCON 212 to shout him out. I'm going to show his Twitter later, but he's at Foss Firefighter, both on Twitter and Instagram. Just retweet him, replies, send DMs of like, hey, I love your show, Hack All NCommander. I heard on the live stream you've been going rough. Can't wait to see you back. Hope everything's okay. Just that keeps him going. Just little things like that, you know, just really help, especially in this type of community that we're in with computer hackers. And you can tell this is a last-minute stream because of all the stupid crap everywhere. So, what are we going to do this time? Well, first of all, to introduce myself, I'm Side Pocket. That's my username. I am one of the co-founders of DEFCON 201, and I need to kind of get my shaving together. I've also been having a crazy week, but in a good way. I've actually been, I work a day job, and unlike what's going on with most people in COVID, I'm in the process of getting promoted, and I can't tell you what the job is because it's classified. Don't worry, I'm not a Fed. But there's just so much involved, and it's like I'm about to hit a pile of money, but I'm not there yet. So it's like I can smell the dollar bills, but it's still not within my arm reach. So that's what I've been working on all week, in addition to doing some behind the scenes stuff to prepare for DEFCON, which I can't wait till we announce some of the stuff that we and other groups are doing for DEFCON Safe Mode. It's going to be really fun. And also preparing for our upcoming meeting on Friday. And that's actually going to be the first thing we're going to look into. Tonight's schedule basically is I'm going to explain what our meeting's going to be on Friday real quick. Then we're going to look up the giant elephant, or the giant burb, the giant blue burb in the room, which is Twitter getting just, it's pwned right now. And some of what we've found out so far. Heck, if there's any news that's breaking during that, I'll announce that on air. And then I'm going to show 2 awesome videos. The first video, to satisfy all the NCommander fans up there, is he does have a YouTube, and he created a new episode earlier this week before his life truly went crashing down. And I'm going to play that video. It's an interesting take on Linux, and it involves a lot of floppies. And for you younger guys out there, younger guys and gals out there, it's hack the planet. Yes, Satan, my ninjas. For you people out there, when we mean floppy, we mean a storage thing, not his. That's a whole other debugging story. But we're gonna do that, and then I am part of a group at. Not that I work at Black Hat USA, but I'm part of a group that gets these like online webinars. By the way, outside of the briefings, you can get into Black Hat free this year. And we're actually going to check the website in a moment to see if you can still do that. Because I feel like a lot of people don't know about that. And Black Hat is really expensive. Never mind the online content's expensive. But, like, when you fly out, it's expensive. It costs like a couple of $1,000s just to get in the door, unless you want to break in like my friends do. So the fact that they're offering everything else for pretty much free is absolutely amazing, and I feel like a lot of people still don't know about that, so I'm letting people know about that. And so I have a lot of online webinar videos from Black Hat, and we're going to watch one that I've been saving for a while that a lot of people always request and you can't find it online, which involves Dave Kennedy speaking a lot of stuff. And Dave Kennedy is known as Relink, spelled the I with a 1, and he's noted for making one of my favorite tools that I actually use regularly, especially during CTFs and red teaming exercises, which is the Social Engineers Toolkit. So you can also use it in a blue hat way to create honeypots and stuff using social media, but that's another topic for another day. So let's get into this. So let's talk about what our meeting real quick is going to be like, because we're still putting some aspects of it together, but I'm just really, really excited. So I'm going to shrink myself once again. This is going to be fun. Ooh, oh, wrong thing. There we go. Let's select actually me. There we go. And now it's time to get small. Let's get small. That's a good size, as she once said. And let's turn on the display capture. And now let's go to browser. You can cross over. I don't think anyone cares. I mean, you're a sexy man, so.
Yeah, I was trying not to.
Bleep. Censored. There we go.
Wrong cam, man.
Yep. Well, not that type of cam, not yet. So this is our website. This is DEFCON 201. We're still celebrating Pride because we haven't updated the website yet. We're going to do that tonight. But we have updated our blog and news page, so provided that the computer doesn't die. This is our blog. When you go to our news section, we're on Medium. If you want to go to Medium directly, we're at medium.com at defcon21.org. I also want to mention out there for anyone watching this, even when we're playing the pre-recorded videos, please chat to us. There's a little bit of a delay because I'm also watching this on a repeat stream that has a slight delay, but I love in particular talking to people, and all of us love talking with you guys and gals out there. So while we appreciate and like lurkers, if you do want to interact, please interact. And if you also like this content and you also want to get a heads up, like just in case you forget when our meeting's going to show up, which is going to be this Friday at 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. See, that's something that changed. Hang on, wait a minute. I just realized, where did my beautiful face go? Haha, that's what happened. Let's do this. There we go. Oh, now I'm infinited. There we go, now you can see me. that you can hit the follow or notification button, whether you're on Twitch, DLive, YouTube, Nvidius through the Tor network, or Mixer if you're still on that. This will be our last DEF CON 201 meeting before Mixer closes, so that will be very fascinating. But you can hit that notification. We like to shout out notifications, and while we're not going to go for an affiliate yet with Twitch, soon we are going to work on ways that if you guys want to contribute to us, because unfortunately we need some money to do some more awesome things, that's going to be in the cards. But let's talk about this upcoming meetup. So this is our July meetup. Most of it's accurate. I have to rearrange 5 minutes for one of our speakers because, just timing of it. But pretty much the schedule is going to stay the same in the exact order. So I name all the meetings. I'm the one who personally names all the meetings since the beginning of time, aka over 3 years ago. I still can't believe we're over 3 years old. And I call this meeting Scratch Space. Believe it or not, even after I had to rearrange all the meetings for COVID, this was the meeting that actually didn't have a name until literally when I posted this a day or two ago. So I literally didn't have a name until I was writing the blog post, and the name was the last thing I put in. And, Scratch Space, it's a little bit of humor. It's basically extra data space on a disk. I couldn't find a good name, so this is the name I chose. Plus, I feel like we're doing this at the last minute, I guess, but we have a lot of great content, and there's a bunch of stuff changing, which is why I'm taking a moment out in the live stream to do all of this. So again, it's going to be this Friday. That's July 17th. There's going to be a rain day on July 24th. I'll get into that in a second. So if it rains that day, we will still do the live stream, but in terms of meeting in person, we will then meet the following week, that Friday. So that would be July 24th, same time, same place. So regardless, on the 17th, if you're watching this broadcast, you are going to see the content. Like, that's not going to change. So just want to let you know that. We normally meet from 7 to 10 p.m., but because in New Jersey we have an executive order, we have many of them due to COVID, but we have one particular one that states that while businesses can be open, that all businesses have to basically close at 8 p.m., especially if you're a restaurant, and we meet at an eatery restaurant. So the reason why we're saying this from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. instead of our usual 7 to 10 p.m. Remember, 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. So when 5 p.m. hits, you're going to see the little beginning and music and stuff. We go through the intro and then all the awesome stuff. Is because now our normal venue, which is called Subculture, which I'll try to open their website here, and hopefully the computer won't crash, is going to have limited outdoor seating. So let's see, I might have to change some URL stuff from, okay, it loaded, I didn't even realize. So yeah, this is Subculture. We're trying to, due to COVID and busyness, we've been trying to redo the website, and for some reason the live stream froze on my end, so let's reconnect with that. And for some reason we actually had, I think, a bunch of new people follow us. Did we? Oh, Rishok followed us. Between the meetings. If you follow us, we'll announce them on air. I just want to let's stop casting and recast on the other things I could bring up. So while I'm doing that, this is Subculture. They're located at 260 Newark Avenue in Jersey City, New Jersey. I love that because we've been meaning to stick another 0 on the end of their address during the meeting, so that way it's like reads as 2600, but it's 260 Newark Avenue. And of course this gets confused, so let's try this again. There we go. And they're an amazing sandwich shop. If you are on the PATH train, so if you're in New Jersey or you're in New York City, and you, let me go back to the dashboard, and you want to get there, what you do is you take the PATH train. I should actually bring up PATH's website here. So this is the bane of New Jersey's existence here. You know that that everything has gone to crap due to COVID because the PATH has pretty much been running on time, because I guess there's less people riding it and stuff. So that's how you know everything's screwed up, when NJ Transit actually runs on time. Yeah. And all of our buses are free right now. So let's see here. We have it's the schedules and maps. Let's see if we can get a visual map somewhere. So let's let's see, Journal Square 33rd via Hoboken. This is going to be a Friday, so I'm just going to pick the Journal Square. Let's see. I hope there's a map, physical map somewhere. If not, I'll look on it. Here we go. So if you're in like Manhattan, either mid-Manhattan, 33rd through to Christopher Street, or you're in the World Trade Center, and if you're from Brooklyn and stuff, you can go west. If you're from the Bronx, you can come down this way. And if you're anywhere else in New Jersey, that's not Hoboken, you can come through by the Newark Penn Station, because the Penn Station area that connects all the trains and buses, they have a path station right there. And basically, you're going to take, if you're coming from Newark, you're taking this red line east to Grove Street. If you're coming from Manhattan, you're going to take the yellow line all the way to Grove Street on the station. If you're from World Trade, take the red line. If you take the green line, you're never going to get there. But yeah, so Newark or World Trade Center, you take that red line, east or west. Newark, you're traveling east. World Trade, you're traveling west to Grove Street. If you're in middle to upper Manhattan, you take the yellow line all the way to Grove Street. And then you're going to walk up 5 blocks up Newark Avenue, and you'll find Subculture on your right. And let's go back to Subculture's website if I can. Where did it go? Here we go. And yeah, they're an awesome sandwich shop. They have plenty of space inside, as you can see here. They're like pop culture theme. We do the speaking here. Those are Raspberry Pi video game machines in the back. We'll try to bring one outside. We're going to talk about that tomorrow. It's family run. They're very local. They love us to pieces, and we love them to pieces. They have ginormous TVs to broadcast from. When we're gonna, I'm gonna explain in a minute how we're kind of gonna set up our thing. And this is a guy playing one of the Raspberry Pi games. We actually help them with the Raspberry Pi video game part and some of their tech issues. But yeah, that's Subculture, and they also support Black Lives Matter, by the way. So that's how you know they're good people. And again, if you have any questions about Subculture or anything that I'm saying, please let me know. We're gonna be meeting. They're physically there between 5 and 8 p.m. So normally, when there's no COVID in the world ending, and they have amazing giant sandwiches. I love Angela. She's the main chef. She's one of the main chefs. I'm getting hungry watching that already, because I haven't had dinner yet. Like, I'm not even kidding. Like, literally, if we meet a venue and the food's terrible, even if we meet there, we will actually let you know if the food or drink is terrible. I trust you, this isn't. They also normally have a bring your own booze policy, but I don't know how that's going to work outside. So that's one of the questions we're going to answer tomorrow. And I'm going to, let's see if we can click on social media here. That's an example of one of their sandwiches. Oh, come on. It's doing the thing. Doing the thing with the stuff with the thing. Might be able to directly click on. Yeah, here's your Instagram. I'm going to fight through their menu system here. So yeah, so if, you bastard. I hate life. Can't open. Yeah, because of this crap. Yeah, if I was on Firefox, I'd be able to probably pull up this image. But if you see here where I'm hovering the cursor, they have an outdoor pen area. So from 5 all the way into 8, because 8 they have to close. We're going to cut down everything. We're going to stop the live stream, pack up all the equipment, and leave. So just to know, 8 p.m. we are gone. But that outdoor pen area, we're going to have limited seating there. So if you want to take the PATH train over, we do have limited seating. Now, like I said, limited. We have a maximum of 20 people to meet in person. I don't know if we're going to reach that goal, but I just want to let you know that's what we mean by limited tickets. We're not kidding. And what we have here is an Eventbrite link. It's completely free. We do have a couple of things to note about this, so some ground rules. One, in order to attend physically, you must RSVP through Eventbrite. You're going to either print out your RSVP or show it to us on the phone. This is to prevent, we're not going to do a will call, because otherwise people can go up and just be like, oh yeah, that's my name right there, and we have no way to prove it because everyone's using hacker handles. So this is a way to note that, I mean, there's technically ways to get around it, but that if you have RSVP'd here, we pretty much know that you RSVP'd. So you're going to need that, and we're going to extend the ticket purchasing. So even if you show up on that day and you didn't know and we tell you, you can buy a ticket, not buy because it's free, but you can obtain a RSVP through Eventbrite during the event, just in case you didn't notice. But yeah, 5 to 8 p.m. So in order to meet in person, table for Mr. the Plague. Yeah. My name is the Plague. You witless techno weenie. Anyhow, so here's some more ground rules. So, subculture is a business. Normally, we have people lounge around because most people buy food there, but we highly, highly recommend you purchase a food item or a drink there. Otherwise, you're just wasting space because they're operating normal hours when we physically meet there. So, if you're going to show up, you don't have to purchase like a food item. If you want to, if you're poor like me, you can spend like the $2 and get a giant soda, or the $4 and get a giant amazing smoothies that they make there. Their sandwiches are awesome. So if you're hungry, you have $5, $6, $8, $12. Buy their food there. Once you buy food there, you can sit the entire meeting, food or drink. That's the only thing that we ask about. And also, normally they usually have a bring your own booze, but we don't know how that works with outside. So right now, I would say keep the booze at home, or if you're going to bring it in a flask, or have a bag or something. We're not responsible for any alcohol problems there. If you do act up, just like in the meeting, inside the physical meeting, normally we will throw you out if you are an ass. So just a note about that. So you have to RSVP on here. So you show us your RSVP, you sit down, we're going to bring a menu out, or one of the staff will bring a menu out. You pick a food or a drink item, and guess what? You can physically attend the meeting and be there physically with us live. Now, here's the key here. You also need a mask. We're going to try, we can't guarantee, but we're going to try to have some disposable masks there. So if you do show up without a mask, you might be able to get a disposable mask that you can keep, or a rewashable simple mask. But if you have a mask, you must bring it with you. Now, obviously, you have to take the mask off when you sip or eat. But anytime during that, you're going to have a mask on. We all have masks here. That's how that's going to work. Also, everyone, because I believe we're gonna have groups of tables of 4 to 6, and again, the max is 20. So you got all the tables are gonna be 6 feet apart at all times, except for DEFCON 201 personnel like myself and my co-founder. No one should be moving between the tables unless you come in a group. So if you like 3 of you guys or gals show up and you all RSVP'd and you sit all at one table, obviously you're going to be sitting next to each other because you've been around each other for a while. But like if you want to go to another table, don't. We're all packed together. We can all hear each other by talking and or shouting. If you don't want to shout, turn to someone to the nearest table to you. Can you say, hey, can you tell that person this? And we will telephone it over. So just a note about that. And last but not least, just like in our usual thing, I'm going to go back here. We do have a code of conduct. It's a subset of our constitution. I'm going to try to get it to load here. All of the event page, all of our event pages has a link to this code of conduct. It's quite lengthy. Our COC or COC is quite lengthy. I mean, you wouldn't expect anything else from DEFCON 201. But the summary of this is the Bill and Ted be excellent to each other. If you act like an ass or a knucklehead, we are going to throw you into the Hudson River with the rest of Florida, and I guarantee you will not like that. Also to note there, both the restaurant and us will provide sanitation measures. We're going to have wipes and sprays and stuff like that. And again, no guarantee yet. We will announce online if we do. We're going to try to get some disposable masks there. So again, review. If you want to meet in person, you go to Subculture, which is at 2260 Newark Avenue. It's a sandwich shop. You take the Grove Street Paths Trade, red line on World Trade or Newark Penn, or the yellow line in Manhattan, to Grove Street, and you walk up 5 blocks. You can find it on Google Maps or OpenStreetMaps. And our base rules are, again, if you come in groups, you can sit and eat together. Otherwise, please be 6 feet apart at all times. Bring a mask, and you have to RSVP in order to physically show up in the outdoors. And it's free. I mean, you have to get a food or drink item, but it's free. We're not charging for the RSVPs. That's if you want to meet in person. Now, what if you can't meet in person or you're still too nervous about COVID or whatever? Don't worry. We are still broadcasting all of this. So, like, since we started in March, and we're going to also try to upload all the videos before our meeting, so tomorrow. Just like how we've been broadcasting our usual 7 p.m. when we've had amazing speakers talking about food resources, Black Lives Matter, transitioning with your biological sex, audio engineering, all of that. That meeting we're going to have, it's still going to be live streamed. The only difference is that it's going to start at 5 and end at 8. And you are going to actually see us at Subculture. with anyone else who decides to show up physically. That's the only difference. Otherwise, if you can't make it out or you're too afraid to make it out, you're not going to miss anything. Even when COVID's over and we're inside partying, unless a speaker decides not to, because of sensitive information, be on the broadcast, we are going to live stream all of that. I also want to let everyone know who shows up in person, we're going to do the camera so it's only core DEFCON 2.0 staff facing. We will let you know where the camera is, and we also will let everyone know when we have the audio on the camera turned on and when it's turned off. So if you want to show up in person but you're too nervous about exposing your face, because Twitch and YouTube and stuff do tracking or voice stuff, don't worry. We're going to let you know when the microphone's on and off, and you will know where the camera is at all times. We will never take the camera and point it to someone else unless we get consent from that person, no matter who they are. So basically this camera is going to be on me a lot. You'll probably see G.I. Jack, our co-founder. You might see Sarah Siller, NCommander, or Neo, who hasn't been on this live stream yet, floating around. If you do see someone else, that's because that person chose to be on camera or to speak on camera. So to note, if you want to show up physically but you're worried about being doxxed, we're not like that there. Otherwise, if you're online, it'll just be like a normal broadcast stream from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. EST. So now that we got that out of the way, and reminders, so there's a limited amount, 20 seats for in-person. You eat outside, you have to wear a mask, you have to buy food or drink item there, but otherwise you can attend us physically, and we're going to be doing proper social distancing and sanitation. Otherwise, we'll see us online on Twitter. On Twitter. I'm trying to get our Periscope back, but we're going to see us on Twitch, DLive, YouTube through Tor, as well as one of the final broadcasts we're going to be doing on Mixer. And we might add another broadcast in there, but we'll announce that on the day. A different stream type I want to try out to replace Mixer. So, what's going to be involved in this meetup? I'm actually really excited. I've been working on this for a while despite not knowing the name. Otherwise, we had everything else. It's just we've all been so busy with our lives between DEFCON 2.1, DEFCON Safe Mode, Hackers on Planet Earth, and just insanity that it took us a while to post it. But here's all the data here. It'll also be on our website. So from 5 p.m. to about 6:25, for the people in person, we're going to be hanging out and we're going to be working on different in-game projects and stuff like that. Online, we're going to be debuting a new Black Hat broadcast talk that, unless you got invited to it, you will not see this online. So we're going to be the first ones to broadcast it. And it's this great talk about IoT systems. And they're going to look at 4 different IoT security systems, including crypto wallets that didn't take into account physical access, telematics unit in a car that allows hackers to take control of the corporate network. So it's like similar to a video game console where they're going to use the device connected to the car to the corporate network to break in. An EV car charger that relied on a Raspberry Pi for its security, and police body cameras and how they work in the weird way that sometimes they digitally virtually broadcast data. And so they're going to be looking at all 4 of those situations about IoT fails. And that's what you're going to be seeing if you're streaming it online. People in the background will be watching it casually. Now, that only lasts for an hour, so I would say between 6 to 6:25, you're going to see us hanging around, and we're going to chat during that time with the people in the chat. So if you have anything to shout out or questions, we also might bring some people online because we do a hacker show and tell, aka the DC201 show and tell, where we're going to bring people online, maybe virtually, but if anyone physically shows up and brings something physical, we'll show that off there. We're going to be showing some of the stuff that we've been working on and things like that during that, and just basically hang out and chat with you guys. We even might play a game of like the Jackbox Party with all of you guys, which we might do at the end just as a test run. That's a game where you just use your cell phone or your computer, you go to a website, you input our game code, and you'll be like doing funny like Cards Against Humanity type games. And we can do it for like, I think up to like 20 people at the same time. With you guys participating, it'll be amazing. So that's the first part. Is if you're online, you're going to be seeing us also talk about IoT stuff, and then in person as well as online starting at 6, we're just going to chat with the chat online and do meet and greet and talk in person and things like that. So starting at 6:25, we always give 5 minutes to make the announcements of DEFCON 201, what we've been working on, things that are happening. We're going to probably be announcing some stuff on air and in person for the DEFCON Safe Mode and all the stuff we've been working with other groups for that. That's going to be really fun. And then for the first 20 minutes, or 10, 20 minutes, At the same time, our thing's going on. There's actually going to be a Python workshop. So I know a lot of you guys probably out there programming Python, but I'm a Ruby programmer, for example, mainly. I'm still learning Python. I think I've maybe gone beyond beginner barely, but that took months, and I literally had to learn it myself. I have a friend who is basically setting up a Zoom meeting. We're not going to be using Zoom ourselves. She's setting up a separate Zoom, and you enter that meeting ID, that 744 blah 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 meeting ID, and the passcode is capital P lowercase y. And if you've ever wanted to learn Python, and you have, or you even don't know about programming and you're looking for your first language, this is the course that she'll be running. It's going to last during our entire meeting, and she's going to go into what exactly is Python, what makes it different from other programming language, all the stuff you can create and do with it. She's going to go over the print functions, the input functions. She's going to introduce Python libraries, and she's going to be using the Turtle library to make simple programs that then you can be like, hey, I programmed this, and show this off to your family and friends. She recommends getting up to Python 3.8. Or if you want to do stuff online, there's this awesome link that's called NCommander.com where you'll be able to use that and use your code for future workshops. And she also recommends if you have a GitHub that you can create one. That way you can host the code and easily show it off to people. But as long as you're up to date with Python 3.8, and you can go to python.org/downloads, you'll be able to do this course. So follow whatever it says on python.org. And then load Zoom, sign up for Zoom. I know there's been the whole spying things, but unfortunately she can only do Zoom for now. Put in the meeting ID and the passcode, and starting at 6:30, bam, while you watch our thing, you can go into that Zoom meeting and learn Python for the first time. Now, like I said, it's going to last during our whole thing. So for her thing, for you, the people watching the live stream, you're only going to see the first 10, 15, 20 minutes of it. Then we're going to change over to our speakers. So after the 20-minute mark at best, if you want to continue the workshop, log into the Zoom meeting, stick into the Zoom meeting. Don't turn us off. You can listen to us in the background and observe things while you do it. And if you miss anything, all this stuff is recorded. We have back recordings on Twitch. We have a permanent archive on YouTube. And we also have a bunch of portals, including Internet Archive, PeerTube, and DTube, that we will be uploading our meetings to in the next 2 days and in the future. So that's where you're going to see that there. But that's our main open workshop. And I'm so happy that my friend, how do you pronounce her screen name? My friend Vivi Valentina is doing this workshop, so that's cool. And then we're going to get right into our main talk. So starting around 6:50, and this is the part I'm going to have to change a bit, Zoe, who's been absolutely amazing. Zoe is someone that I met at the social engineering conference in New Jersey. We had a little booth there, and she was one of the people that came to our booth, and she is literally like a superhero. She is butt deep in InfoSec. She is in part of the Women for AppSec OWASP chair. She's an OWASP NYC chapter leader, and she runs the New York division for InfoSec Girls. And she has a lot of big following, and she's involved with so many professional conventions, and she really likes our group. And I've always wanted her to speak forever, and she's always wanted to speak here, but she's usually really busy. However, because of COVID, she's had more time to give up, and so she pitched us this thing on our stream. And what she's going to be talking about is something, honestly, a lot of people know, and considering so many people getting laid off right now, a lot of people need to hear, which is how to build a career in information security or network security or AppSec. Anything that's a something sec, she's going to talk about it, and it's going to be interactive. She's going to be interacting with the people physically at our meeting, as well as interacting with all of you folks online. Yay, Pseudo Social Club heart. Unless that's you, is Pseudo Social Club Zoe and I don't know it? Dox yourself if you are. I may have found you out in the worst game of Guess Whoever. But she's a researcher and consultant in professional InfoSec, and she's going to talk about diversity in InfoSec, how to find coworkers, mentors, how to do resume stuff, Oh, cool. You're a Cypher. We'll try. We'll actually, when we go to the YouTube Twitter section, if we haven't followed you, we're going to follow you on the stream. So thank you for watching out there. And again, if you want more content like this and you're on any of our live streams right now, you can hit the follow or subscribe button depending on what platform you're on Twitch, DLive, YouTube, and if you want to be brave, Mixer, as it continuously falls into the sun, along with Twitter, which we'll get to in a moment. But yeah, Zoe's going to be talking about just getting a job, like doing job stuff in InfoSec, and how you get your foot in the door. And once your foot in the door, how do you hold that door open so you become the door? And especially if you're someone who happens to identify as female or a minority race and you want to get in, I think this is also going to be really important for you, because she works with a lot of minorities, and she herself as a woman had to overcome so much in order to get into the industry. So she's going to be covering that for about like 15-20 minutes. Then for 15 minutes, immediately afterwards, we're going to get to Project Truth, talking about broadcasting digital graffiti for social justice. You probably have known, especially if you watch our streams and if you've watched the Twitch channel Woke, about the Black Lives Matter movement, and how there's police officers. It's at this point where they don't even care what skin color you are. They're equal opportunist face beaters. That's what their mask has fallen off completely, and they've just gone out of control. And of course, we did live stuff for the Trevor Project. We're going to be announcing a new project soon that hopefully not only will you be donating money, but you'll actually be getting a little something out of that too, so stay tuned for that. And again, I just want to put out there, right, personally myself, just for some confusion, I'm like this with everyone, including hackers, just personally. This is not a DEFCON 201 thing. This is my personal opinion. I am not anti-cop. I'm anti-people not doing their job well. So whether you're a dentist or an architect, a police officer, a firefighter, a crossing guard like myself, you bake cakes for a living, a sex worker, a permanent slacker, a video game, I don't care. If you massively screw up to the point where you're causing at least one other person some sort of illness, especially if that person ends up hospitalized or dead, F you deserve to be stepped on, because when you do bad things, you need to be punished, so that way you know how to do good things to be rewarded. That really hasn't happened in a lot of policing. I know that from direct experience. And one of the groups that you probably have heard of, one area that's been really affected, is Louisville. I have relatives in Louisville. Louisville is where, funny enough, we're going to link to this with Dave Kennedy, where DerbyCon used to be hosted. And for years I wanted to visit my folks while visiting DerbyCon, and then the year I was supposed to go, that was the last DerbyCon, and also that year I started a new job, so I wasn't able to go to any DerbyCons. That's my hell. Oh well. I'm happy I go into Nauticon, because you can't go there anymore, and that was really fun. But yeah, in Louisville, they've been really at it in the same way New York and Chicago and LA and stuff has been at it. And there's a great group called Project Truth. And I don't know if you guys have heard of, actually, let me type online to see if their website still exists. Graffiti Research Lab. Let's see what comes up, because I remember used to acting with these guys in New York. Oh, cool, their website I think still exists. I don't think they're active anymore, but at least their website's still up. Yeah, they haven't been active since like 2009, so yeah. But the Graffiti Research Lab was a group of hackers that in New York and eventually around the world that worked with different local graffiti artists in order to art expand out by using high grade technology. They came up with one of my favorite things, which is the LED throwy, which is essentially a bunch of LEDs clipped to a battery and a decently powered magnet, and you can throw it at metal objects and they'll stick. And when you get people with a ton of those, you can just bomb a metallic object or surface with all of these. They came up with that. They came up with let's see, the ghetto matrix, which is kind of like a way of doing, because see, this is how old this is. This is probably a Flash plugin, so that doesn't work. But to do the matrix bullet time effect on a zero budget. I'm trying to find what else did they do, because there's one particular thing that I like besides the besides the LED glowies. Where is it here? Come on, where is this? See, that's the LED throwy. Stop. Yeah, because it's so old. They're trying to load in files. Oh, here's a cool one. When I was at the new school, they showed this. It's called the iWriter. It uses a low grade camera like while I'm broadcasting right now, and they put it in front of the person's eye, and it's for people who are paraplegic or in the hospital. And basically, they can write things and use a cursor because it uses your pupil to track, and you either use a finger click button or blink twice really fast in order to select things. And that was a really cool project they work on. And so why am I bringing that up? Well, one of the things that they've worked on that Project Justice is currently using is where did it go? Is digital projections. So instead of physically spray painting a side, which is illegal, they would use what were at the time new, and they're even better now, high-powered projectors at night, and broadcast this stuff onto like giant sides of buildings so you can see it from like space and vehicles and stuff. Now, you're probably familiar with this because shortly after graffiti artists used this, a bunch of yuppies, because that's who they are, got the same idea and have used this for advertising. So if you ever drove by a building and wondering why there's like a giant projected Nike or Bitcoin or SpaceX logos somewhere on a building randomly, it's because they co-opted this type of digital graffiti. And because they're broadcasting, there is some iffy stuff with legal stuff, but it's a hell of a lot less illegal. Blech. Let's drink some water so I can speak correctly. It's a lot less illegal than directly spraying paint on a building. And that's what Project Truth is doing. They are using digital projections to project on side of the building. They're going to talk about who they are. They're going to be talking about this donation page so they can keep all their equipment up to date. And they're going to talk about the equipment, and who knows, no promises, but maybe they'll actually broadcast on the side of a building. That would be cool. I don't know exactly what they're going to do, but I know they're going to explain themselves and how the tech works. And then our last speaker, and probably what I would call our main speaker, is Oregano. So there are two crazy guys, and one of them speaking here, Shuravam, I hope I pronounced his name right, who are one of the, not only are working on IRC version 3, but are one of the few people who are actively developing it. In fact, I think they're the only two people actively developing that, instead of being like, oh, IRC 3 is such a, that would be great, it's such a nice thing, and it's like, cool, do you have computer experience? Yes. Are you going to do anything with it? No. They're the only two people that are like, yes, we have done stuff with it, and they've actually made a working IRC3 server called Oregano that is written in Go. I know we're gonna make jokes about Go, but just keep it with here. It's really brilliant stuff, where it uses IRC3 v3 protocols and what the current framework is to essentially make a working server. That you can run this stuff on, and they're going to tour it and explain it and all of that lovely stuff. And so that's our three main speakers, and in addition, like I said, our open projects is my friend's doing a beginner's Python class on the side. We're going to show the first like 10 to 20 minutes of that, and then our next thing, which you might see us do on the stream, is, for all of you who are aware, we're trying to eventually build our own local CTF so we can eventually train to make a CTF team to compete. We'd love to win things, but we just want to see how good our skills are. And so what we've been doing for the past year and a half, and we continue to do this because it's just so fun, is we have public ways that you can compete into multiple CTFs that are online. And we try to, and because especially during COVID, we try to time them during our meetings. And the newest one we're going to do, which is going to start at 2:30 p.m. And we'll, if you can't remember that time, 2:30 p.m. EST, on July 17th, this Friday. As soon as our meeting starts, you can join, and we're going to post about how to do that later on tonight. But yeah, this CTF's running. It's made by a bunch of students in India, and it's designed as a beginner to intermediate level Jeopardy-style CTF. So it's going to show up a bunch of icons. You click on them. Each one's a different category. There's going to be one about crypto, one about website vulnerabilities. Now, I'm pretty sure Twitter's security team needs to redo those CTFs again in order to learn proper security, but I digress. Learn networking, red teaming, blue teaming, hacker history, all that stuff. It's like, again, like Jeopardy, and you're going to click one, and you're going to do a bunch of hacks, and you're going to get a flag. And not only is this a good way to learn experience, but this one's specifically designed for beginners. So if you've ever wanted to do a CTF, but you were nervous on how to do it, or you've never done it before, do it under us. You will find information basically on you're going to go to this website, and it's going to have a login, right? And what you're going to do because I've actually never. You're going to enter. We're going to have a username, and there's going to be a password. You're going to get that username and password by joining our Discord, which I don't have the Discord currently set up on this machine right now. I'll bring it up during our meeting. But yeah, you go into our Discord. We'll have our password posted in there. So you enter the username, password. It's going to be like DEFCON 201 or DC 201 plus the password. And you'll enter in under us. And you're going to be one of many users under that account or group that are going to be competing in this. And our goal is not to win. We'd love to win. We've ranked really high on past CTFs, believe it or not, even though this is just like a potpourri free-for-all. But we're there to, one, test our skills, to see what we lack in, to see what we can improve on, to see what we've improved on. It's a learning experience for all of us, including me. I'm going to try to do some of the CTF stuff during the live stream itself. And most importantly, we're going to eventually build our own physical CTF stuff. We're aiming to try to start building near the end of the year, like starting in September. But we might have to do it beginning of next year because of the coronas. But we're doing these, and we're kind of learning how CTFs are structured so that we know how to build our own. That way we're not building it blind. So that's what we're doing. A bit of background, too, if you want to enter the CTF, my recommendation is to look into... We actually have a blog post about this, and we're going to do a separate blog post reiterating that information later. My suggestion is to be on a platform that supports. Let's actually go back because there's not much else here. That's basically the gist of it. So again, repeat from 5 to 8. We're going to be streaming. If you can't make it in person, we are going to be live streaming this Friday on July 17th, 5 to 8. If you want to show up in person and actually see us for once, we have limited seating. It's 20 people. You have to go to our Eventbrite link here. Sorry, I already have it open. You have to go to our Eventbrite. It's free. You click register. You show us on your phone or a printout of that register that you got in your email that you've registered. We sit you down. You get a food or a drink item. You don't have to break your bank during this. Just get a food or drink item. And you can hang out with us until 8 when we have to shut down the stream, the meeting, and the venue. So that's how that's going to work. But let's go back to our blog here. Let's talk about this. My recommendation is if you want to do a CTF, especially if you're new and a beginner, go onto a platform that will help you. Have the most amount of tools to help you with the CTF, so you're not installing tools individually. We made it in this post about CTF of the different tools. I'm going to quickly go over it. We're going to make a new post that has more updated stuff about this later on tonight or during the weekend. But like common popular tools, the one that we found is, and we have links and where to download on each of these. Nmap, which is a network discovery tool. I'm going to list them all, but I'm not going to describe them all. Wireshark, which does packet analyzation. Putty, SQL map, the Metasploit framework, Burp Suit, the Z attack proxy from OWASP, Nessus, Nikio, John the Ripper, which you've probably seen G.I. Jack use on his awesome show Archvile Linux Perspective, which is going to happen next Thursday, which will be on the 23rd at 7 p.m. Hydra, Waif, and BetterCap. Those are some common ones, but if you don't want to download stuff individually, this is what we recommend to do. Now, if you want to use Linux, and I highly recommend using Linux, what I would do is set up a VM, or, which is what I often do, is I have a ton of USB sticks, and you live burn a stick. You can use, if you're on Windows, you can use Rufus. If you're on Linux itself, instead of using the terrible DD command, you can use something like Etcher to burn this on. That's why we want to update this, because we want to show how you actually burn an ISO for Linux. And you can use some of the popular ones. The super popular one is Kali Linux, which is a version of Debian, and it has a crap ton of pre-built tools for you to use. Also, that way with the Live OS, when you pull out the stick or you close the VM, all the stuff that you've done. So let's say you're in an environment. This won't be this for the CTF, but let's say they're trying to trace you back. When you kill that VM or pull out that live stick, that's it. There's no trace of it. So it's just like a perfect just OS you boot in for tools, and when you're done, you're done. Nothing's saved, nothing to trace back unless you encounter a super hacker. My personal favorite that I have is Parrot OS, which is it's similar to Kali. It's a variant of Debian. I like it more because it has to me the right balance of tools, and to me visually layout wise it works better as it works as competently as an operating system as is a penetration testing platform. I also find that it has a couple of tools, especially with automotive stuff, that Kali doesn't have, as well as it also has its own dedicated ISO for VMs. So if you're going to run a virtual machine with it, they have their own small ISO just for that. Another one, if you're crazy and you like to run Gentoo in production, you can run up Pentoo, which is similar to Kali. It's an entire professional hacker penetration testing suite that's done in Gentoo instead of Debian. And if you are an Arch fiend, and if you want any tips, you can reach out to G.I. Jack, our co-founder, who runs his own show called Archfile Linux Perspective. Here, looking like a ninja out on the prowl. Might want to duck down here. Hi, he's one of these guys. Is Black Arch, which, again, similar to Kali, it's Arch Linux, but it has I think it even has more in Kali, a crap ton of penetration and hacker tools. They over 2,500 tools on there, based in Arch. Here's some screenshots of it. Look at this mess. Look at this lovely thing. This is like the Arch experience. It's like even in GUI form, we're all Unicode and ASCII. It's like it's terminal even when it's not terminal. But what's really cool is if you already have an Arch Linux system, like you have like Manjaro or Scientific Arch, you can also get it as a repo install package. So if you have base Arch or any form of Arch Linux, you can just import all the Black Arch tools directly into there, which I find neat. If you cannot do Linux for whatever reason, we got you. So real quick, if you're on Windows, that you can actually run a limited version of Kali Linux on Windows. It uses the Windows subsystem for Linux, which I think NCommander might have covered once. If not, he's probably going to cover that in a future thing. So as this blog post shows, you have to do some effery with the Windows 10 machine and PowerShell, and then once you install it with the download code, you go in and you do your usual ATP updates and stuff, and then there's different tool lists you can download, because it doesn't come with the tools. You have to download them separately, but basically you have a Linux penetration tool set based on Kali's terminal mode in Windows as Windows subsystem. If not, there's an even easier one called the Pen Test Box, which loads as an exe, and you can load it. The fastest way to load it is just load Pen Test Box. There's a version of it with Social Engineer's Toolkit that takes forever, and to be honest, I've never used Social Engineer's Toolkit for CTF, but basically it loads as a separate app, and it does the same sort of stuff here. So yeah, I'm gonna kind of click forward. Let's see if he brings it up. They have tutorials on the website and things. So yeah, it loads up as like a terminal window. You have some options, and yeah, it's like a whole Linux penetration test system. Comes with a ton of pre-built tools. Unlike the Kali for Windows, it already has a lot of these tools built in, and you can do penetration testing right away. Last but not least, and then we'll get into juicy video stuff. If you're on a Mac, Nullbyte has some really great this text resource, as well as a video series you can search for on YouTube, and I think they have links on their website provided it actually loads. Let's try that again. Yeah, here we go. About how to configure your Mac, your Apple Mac, to do penetration test stuff. Now, I will say, this was written in 2016. All the stuff here works for Macs. However, I do know that Mac is now switching over to ARM, among other things. So some of this stuff might not work, not because this is necessarily outdated per se, but because Mac has literally had a conference last month where they're changing so much hardware and software wise, some of the stuff might not work anymore. But they have, like, you know, how to install, like how to use the terminal on Mac, how to install those penetration testing tools that I listed on there. And you can also go on YouTube, and they have an entire video series as well. You search Nullbyte, Mac penetration testing, or Mac hacking. We might do that later, and I'll show you that. So that's on all three major operating systems, how to do it. There is a way, by the way, how to do it on FreeBSD and stuff like that, but we didn't add that in at the time because we didn't think about it. At a future when we make a dedicated post about that sort of stuff, we're going to include how to do that on BSD as well. It's not too far different from Linux, as much as BSD people would read me about that. So, again, that's our meeting. So just a quick recap, it's going to be this Friday, that's July 17th, from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. We're going to live stream the entire thing. If you want to meet us in person while eating awesome sandwiches and see what our actual faces look like and know what we actually smell like, and maybe even if you're lucky, taste like, while keeping proper social distancing. We have limited seating with social distancing at our venue at Subculture. You're going to see us broadcast from there. You have to click our Eventbrite link, which is going to be on our website and is currently on our Medium blog, to do so, as well as our meetup.com. We're going to have a great time. We're going to be doing our pre-show is going to be this awesome Black Hat USA talk that's literally debuting tomorrow that you can only see on our stream if you haven't RSVP'd for that. Then we're going to talk with you guys a bit in chat and talk about our announcements and code of conduct of stuff we're going to be doing at Hope 2020 and DEFCON Safe Mode. And then we have 3 amazing talks, one from our awesome friend Zoe, about building your InfoSec career, another about Black Lives Matter, social justice of doing digital graffiti, and our last huge main talk is going to be about the Internet Relay Chat, or IRC version 3 platform, and what they've built in Go called Oregano, which is an actual functioning IRC version 3 server. And that will be our meeting, and we'll play some games, and we'll chat. You'll see me pick locks on the stream. It's going to be really fun. If you've seen our past streams during our meeting where we meet third Friday every month, that's what it's going to be. So I know this took longer than normal. I just want to get that out of the way. Now, let's get back to the fun stuff. Oh, let's quickly talk about news, because we might have had some updates here. So let's go into the notifications behind the scenes, see if there's any thing here. Eva and Neo are still arguing. But yeah, so let's try to get to our page. So if you hadn't heard the news, oh cat, Twitter is falling apart right now. Basically, in a nutshell, after all these memes, about a couple hours ago, as NCommander finally joins the chat. Hi, NCommander. Oh, I also want to announce that due to all of the crazy stuff going on in Commander's life, unfortunately, once again, we're going to delay torturing him. We're supposed to torture him at this upcoming meeting, but whether he shows up in person or not, we're not going to torture him. Instead, you're going to watch him and me be tortured on 2 separate occasions, either during next month's meeting or if we're doing the special stream that I think we're doing for DEFCON Safe Mode. That's when the torturing is going to happen. So again, I apologize for delaying it the second time. We're not going to delay it any further. It's literally just because, honestly, when I said I wanted to torture NCommander, I didn't mean like this. So we're just going to allow him space to get through that. And also that allows us to prepare more for the exact torture that we are currently near finalizing voting on. So that's going to be fun to watch. But, oh, and also real quick, if you've heard of Riot Chat, it just changed its name to Element. So if you couldn't find Riot Chat before by typing in Riot IM, you will not be able to find it typing Element in Google either. But they changed their name. Everyone's bitching about it. They're still using a Matrix. From what I understand, the program hasn't changed. They just literally changed all the brandings and names. I don't know. I don't want to know why Lincoln Tunnel's trending. I'll find that out later. But just wanted to note about that. So it's like Privacy Tools IO is probably having like a cow right now. But yes, so here's what's been happening with Twitter so far. Is basically we woke up one day and every single person that has a blue check has gotten hacked. They've been able to access all these different accounts, and each one has a variant of this post where they put a Bitcoin address and they're trying to get people to send them Bitcoin. It's going to one centralized thing. Nobody knows what group is targeting here, who's targeting, like who's the group or person behind this. But as you can see, Elon Muskie here, the Bill of the Gates, Jeff Bezos, and Mr. Bloomberg are some of the people who have been hacked so far. And the hack's been working. There's been 163 transactions so far, and more than $40,000 people got suckered into, so 4 Bitcoins of cryptocurrency. And as someone pointed out in the Cult of the Dead Cow, what I find fascinating the most about this, before I read NCommander's comment, is that all the people, and I'll read them so far it is because the list keeps growing, is, and I'm going to bring that up in a moment, NCommander. That's actually what I'm going to talk about. Let's find the super long list here. Well, first of all, here's like a mini thing about all of some of them that got hit. Elon Musk's Twitter, Apple's Twitter, Uber's Twitter, Joe Biden's Twitter, Jeff Bezos' Twitter, Bitcoin itself Twitter, Coinbase, Binance. So right now, DLive is in hell right now. No, sorry, not DLive. Binance, Brave browser. Brave is in hell right now. We're going to cover Brave browser in October. The Czech version of Binance, Gemini, KudaCoin, Gate.io, CoinDesk, the Tron. Tron is where DLive is panicking because we covered this before. Justin Sun himself, Charles Lee, Mr. Beast, and so many more have all gotten this. And so he says, just as a heads up, what's happening is entirely real life, is not related to the group. Yeah, we're not the one hacking this type of stuff. Because another thing I'm going to quickly point out here is rename their buggy products. Yes, is that someone pointed out from Called Dead Cow, and I'm not going to name who it is. I'll give you a hint. It's not Def Veggie. That's not even like me saying it's Def Veggie. It's not the one who said it. I'm not going to tell you who said it and Called Dead Cow, but he made up a great point. So last night, Donald Trump made a tweet, and one of the tweet bots, and this is the only conspiracy theory I'm going to post out here, by the way, but I think it's a really great point. I don't think it's true, but it's something to think about. Last night, the Twitter bots flagged Donald Trump's post because he posted once again things that weren't actually science, and it said, hey, here's a link to look up facts to see if Donald Trump's tweet is correct or not. And he had a cow. And he signed an executive order this morning, if I remember correctly, that allows the CIA, this is where we go to a blank screen. This is when, so if you see our live stream, let's do this here. If you see our live stream turn into this, that's because we just got hit by the CIA. But I digress. He made an executive order that grants the CIA to be able to do not only more leeway to do not only physical attacks and like blackmailing and stuff they usually do, but has opened it up for something that the CIA actually doesn't do that often because they have the NSA for it. And that's where I get black bagged, which is cyber attacks and cyber security attacks, red teaming shit. And it's like 6 hours after he signs that executive order, all of Twitter gets hacked. And the reason why, it's kind of food for thought, as I sound like Alex Jones here, although I should be probably talking about like fucking goblins or something right now, is that if you've noticed, as NCommander pointed out, Donald Trump's Twitter hasn't gotten hacked. And none of his allies or any business or politician in the Republican Party has gotten hacked. It's all been Democrats, Democrat business people, socialists, anarchists, Antifa, general businesses, foreign businesses, like nothing related. Like Goya hasn't been hacked. Like none of anything associating with conservatism, the right wing, or the United States Republican Party, including Donald Trump or the White House, has been hacked like this. It's all been everyone else. So, think about it. I'm not saying it's true. I'm not even saying that I believe in it. I think that's a very interesting thing to point out, looking at the data that we currently have so far. I personally think these are a bunch of idiot kids, or probably people from like Russia or China or just Montana, because, as also someone pointed out, you basically brute forced your way into Twitter. You could do anything here. You can make anyone post anything, and what are they doing? Bitcoin scams. That shows you that cyberpunk is now 2020, cyberpunk 2077. As if this was the 90s, we would be making like, we would be posting like Photoshop naked pictures of like, what's that, Paul? Lindsey Graham on his Twitter. We'd be like sharing all the videos of thanks Obama on Obama's Twitter account. We would be, we would have like Nancy Pelosi's Twitter account just have endless rickrolling. We would have Ivanka Trump's it would just be endless links to Nambla. Like, that's what we would be doing. It'd be hilarious joke defacings. What are they doing instead? We want money. Give us money. We need to trick people for money, because that's all you ever do at hacking anymore. Just white papers and money, and that's why it's really, really boring and there's no fun anymore. Another thing that happened recently, although I'm then going to double check our feed to see if anything got updated, is from Lucky225. We actually posted this shortly for our live stream on our Instagram, as he made a discovery. So whether or not you liked or hate him, there was a guy named Adrian Lamo, and he died a couple of years ago. I kind of forgot about that. He used to follow me on Facebook. It's a funny story, but he passed away. So I'm not gonna explain who the man is. I'm not gonna get into like social stuff and politics for once, just because that's honestly irrelevant. What is fascinating is that Adrian Lamo's Twitter account was also targeted, and Lucky is one of the people that maintains his Twitter account post-mortem after Lamo passed away. And because of that, he got to observe how they're attacking. So according to Lucky, and he has the screenshot here, they're either intercepting SMS on password reset or entirely bypassing it. So even if you have O2P or F2A or any form of F2A on Twitter, you can apparently still get hammered by this. Oh, he also made an additional thing. He has login alerts. Let's see. So he wrote, so it doesn't seem to be related to Bitcoin. Apparently, Shinji took 6 and was begging. Their accounts now suspended. That said, it is extremely likely it was the same exploit used by 2FA. Same exploit as 2FA was turned on with SMS specifically turned off. I expect PW reset bug / implementation, not SMS. So that's his current update. I wonder who Shinji is. Should I even click on this? It's already suspended. Let's see. Let's quickly see if there's any updates on our end. But yeah, no, that's what's been going on. Is every blue check. In fact, what's been happening is there's no blue diamonds anymore. Blue checks. They're all gone. And so, yay, unchecked represent. And an interesting thing that we found out on our end, right, is so you know how we normally post, hey, we're live streaming, and it has like all the links at the bottom for all of our streams? We can't do that anymore. Apparently, they now have a bot that's either new or they just activated that looks, because we tested, if you post more than 2 links with at least one hashtag and one... So if you have one hashtag and one @ and you post 3 or more links, it will bring up a banner that says, so actually, you know what? Let's try to do that on here and replicate it. So even if the post goes through, let's try replicating it. Let's take one of our old posts here. I'm going to copy the links that we made. We're doing this very, very trashy, you know. So we're going to do tweet, and we're going to do testing to see if that restriction AI Twitter bot is still wrecking the shit. And I will at Twitter, and I will hashtag AI, and let's paste this, and let's see what happens. Because it might let us through finally, but let's see. See, that's what happened. This request looks like it might be automated. To prevent our users from spam and other malicious activity, we can't blah, blah, blah. Basically, it won't let you through. Now, watch what's going to happen here. I'm gonna delete 2 of these. And let's try tweeting again. It passes. So, yeah, that's what the AI bot is looking out for. And, yeah, screw it. I'm going to keep that up there. That's what we've noticed. And even more scary... And I might be able to do this on my phone, and then we'll go into awesome videos. I'm going to go to our Instagram, because my main thing is I'm the social media person, pretty much. Like, we all have, all of our core people here, we have access to social media, but, like, usually if you see a post or something, it's usually me. I will warn, if you want to contact me personally, don't do it through DEFCON 201. Email, if you want to email me, I have a personal email. If not, you can email info@defcon21.org, and I will reply with my personal email. Like, if you chat with us, try to chat with us on social media thinking you're talking to me, it might not be me on there, so never do that. Yeah, NCommander said, thank you, NCommander. We'll give you royalties for this. This needs to be our shirt. One of our new shirts we have to make, as NCommander just wrote, is this is like stupidest 1984. That's going to be a shirt. I'm going to write that one down later. But let's try this. So we made a post where we said, hey, we're going to be on the live stream. And we shared Lucky 225's thing. I'm going to turn up the brightness on this. Now, this is kind of neat. So originally, we were going to do the same link stuff, right? So I'm going to find an older post here. Let's do this. And I'm going to go into edit. And I'm going to copy pasta all the links to our live stream, just like we did on Twitter. And remember, this is Instagram. This is Facebook. Facebook is a rival of Twitter, right? So watch this. So we're going to go in. I'm going to go back to that post. I'm going to hit edit. I'm going to make that gap. I'm going to copy pasta these links. Let's see if this will actually go through now. Nope. We restrict certain activity to protect our community. Tell us if you think we made a mistake. So it's not just Twitter. Because Twitter's falling apart with this hack, all of social media, because I also did tests on Facebook and stuff, are on a similar lockdown. If you try to post 3 or more links and you have someone tagged or you have a hashtag or someone tagged in your thing, it will not let it through, because that's the way I think it's trying to reduce this whole Bitcoin scam, because they did a hashtag and they tagged a user and they put the link to their Bitcoin wallet. That's what's happening right now. So just wanted to put that out there. That's what's been currently going on in like the hacker news. It's like everything is truly falling apart. So let's stop rambling here and let's get into the fun stuff right now. So again, we covered our DEFCON 201 group meeting, which will happen 2 days from now, this Friday. That's July 17th. We're going to be broadcasting the content regardless. For the people in person, if it rains on that day, we'll meet the following week on Friday in person. But regardless, we're going to live stream it from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And it'll be live streamed online. If you want to actually meet us in person, we have 20 RSVP limited seatings through Eventbrite. That's directly on our website and our blog for the link for that. And you have to show that and get a food or drink item, but then you can hang out with us in person. You're going to see us live there. We have a bunch of amazing talks there, including a exclusive Black Hat talk. We're going to have a talk about working on your InfoSec career, digital graffiti for social justice, and IRC version 3. And we're going to be running 2 open workshops that even you at home can interact with, which is an introduction to Python that my friend's running on a separate Zoom meeting, as well as doing another online CTF that's specifically designed for beginners. And we also covered Twitter falling apart in a giant dumpster fire. And Commander just wrote, I wonder if this shared spam service, because I've seen that with other reservices, and Reddit source code had hooks for doing basically that. Yeah, they might. It's either the other companies have either seen Twitter and have implemented it, or they actually might be using the same service to do that, or because since a lot of these are political hacks, drop here soon. I can write you in for that, but I would say NCommander still RSVP. Because we are really restrictive on this, because let's say there's 24 people hanging out there and a police vehicle goes by, they will legit stop and start kicking people out and write up subculture on a thing. So I will say, NCommander, because you are a DEFCON 201 member, you're good, but still RSVP for that, just so that we have everything laid out and made sure. And that goes for everyone else there online watching, or if you're reading this video recording, watching this video recording later, or reading this on any of our social media, website, or blog. So we covered all of that. But yeah, they might also just be using the same service, or because since a lot of these are big companies and government people in politics that got hacked, since we know that the CIA and the NSA has huge tendrils in things like Google and stuff, and that is not a conspiracy theory, that's an actual publicly knowledge thing. And there are many YouTube videos and .gov resources about that. The CIA, NSA, or basically a Department of Defense division may have also just told every social media company to implement those sort of measures. So just letting you know right now, basically internet COVID is going around in a form of Bitcoin, because of course it's going to be cryptocurrency. That's going to be the equivalent of COVID, of course. But now let's get into some fun stuff to round out the rest of the special broadcast, and I guess we'll be broadcasting into the middle of the night. I'm not going to be talking much on here after that. In fact, I'm going to go back into our live stream, and I'm going to click on my handsome self, actually, I'm going to disable the, where are you? The display capture. And now I'm going to do what I do best, and I'm going to grow and get bigger, and all the ladies show up. There we go. So now that I'm full size, because that's what she said, let's get into some of the stuff that the videos I actually want to go into, because that took way longer than I thought. I didn't think we would get that much into detail, especially over the Twitter thing. But I want to show off 2 videos before we end the special stream. And again, normally we have Hack All NCommanders tonight, but as I said, he's been going through his own version of the Fail Factory all month. That's why he's been out for the past 2 or 3 episodes. We wish him well and everything, and get the nightmares of side pocket growing. It's nightmares only for some people. That's the scary part. You know, if he's on Twitter, he'll probably post it in a moment. You can go, actually, let's bring up that display capture again, if I can. And let's go back to the Twitters. You can, even though we call him NCommander, you can find him on Twitter at FossFighter here. He usually hosts a show that we do called Hack All NCommander. If you are on Twitter, or you somehow know how to contact him, he also has a YouTube channel that's called NCommander. He just send a message out, and yes, you got side pocket to lag. Try doing that in real life. That's the next achievement. But you know, message him, and he's actually in our chat right now. So if you're in chat, hit some W's for him, because he's true. I'm not going to dox him for what's been going on, but he's been going through hell. He just posted links to his Twitter and YouTube. He's been going through hell. If he feels good next week on Wednesday, I'd love to have him back. He's been working on a lot of amazing things. Yeah, for Win. I want positivity here. You're already getting enough F's and L's in real life right now. So send positivity his way. Just tell him that you like Hack All NCommander, and that you hope everything's going okay, and wish him well. That's all I ask. You don't have to do it right now, but if he's in chat right now, so if you're in chat, please reach out to him for that. I just, like, you know, he's literally been going through some stuff, and I can't wait to see him back on his show, and hopefully I get to see him this Friday. So yeah, it'll be cool beans. Anyhow, because I know you missed the end of Commanders so much, we're going to be showing 2 videos. And the first video is, as he posted, he does have a YouTube channel. And he recently did a video involving Linux and floppies. Lots and lots and lots of floppies. And I'm not talking about the big old thing that's in his pants, like data on a disk floppies. And I don't even know how to describe this insanity, which is why I usually not try to describe Hack Commander. I'm like Morpheus when it comes to Hack All NCommander, which is that no one can tell you what NCommander does on his live stream. You just have to see it for himself. So here's the latest video that you can find on his YouTube channel about this subject. And because I know everyone misses NCommander out there and we all want to wish him well, this is my way of letting him know to wish him well. And my ugly mug's going to go away. His latest video is going to go on, and I hope you all enjoy it. So take it away, pre-recorded virtual NCommander.
Yeah, finally, the last disc. Oh man, that took a while. Okay. Now I get to do it all over again.
Well, folks, as it turns out, there are a lot of you interested in SLS Linux. I am beside myself that we actually reached 250 subscribers. With that said, it's time for an NCommander special. For those of you who didn't see part 1, I said I would install Softlanding Linux on real hardware if I hit 250 subscribers. On the surface, this seems easy enough. I simply have to create 31 floppy disks and then run the install from start to finish. I even had a good system on hand to do this, a ThinkPad 380D. Of course, it was nowhere near that simple. That being said, you have all risen to the occasion, so as usual, this is your host, NCommander, and it's time to make some floppy disks. Taking it right from the top, I had reasons to believe that SLS Linux would not work out of the box. Using the factory A1 disk, my ThinkPad does indeed boot, which is an optimistic first sign. However, it doesn't take too long before we see a hard disk error. I knew older operating systems struggle with large hard drives, and SLS Linux is at the tail end of this time period. The fundamental cause of this is a design flaw in the PC BIOS. Without special handling, a PC cannot use hard disks larger than 504 megabytes. Throughout the 90s, a technique known as translation geometry was used to allow DAWs and other operating systems to use hard disks up to 8.4 gigabytes in size. Translation geometry is a notoriously error-prone technique to get right. Without working translation, disk sizes could be misreported or an operating system would simply fail to work. It was such a common problem that many BIOS of the era have advanced configuration settings relating to translation. Unfortunately, the BIOS on this ThinkPad, IBM's Easy Setup, doesn't provide a way to reconfigure the translation geometry or specify it by hand. In fact, Easy Setup is so limited, it can be best compared to my first BIOS in terms of functionality. Thus, to solve the hard disk issue, I had to spend many hours reading through the documentation on the OS Dev Wiki to understand how an operating system talks to an ATA hard disk. In the end, the easiest solution was to rewrite part of the Linux kernel's hard disk driver to use what's known as logical block addressing, or LBA. By using LBA, I could completely sidestep translation issues. I went through a lot of virtual machines and test floppies trying to get this all working. In the end, though, I can report success. My modified kernel is able to successfully read and write large hard disks without an issue. I thought after solving this stumbling block, I was home free. In truth, I still had a long road ahead of me. The next step was putting my working kernel on the A1 disk. This ended up being a much larger headache than I had anticipated. Taking a closer look at the A1 floppy, I found that it was formatted with a Minix file system. I thought this was a bit unusual at the time, but it wasn't hard to replace the Z-image file and run Lilo to create a modified A1 disk. The resulting A1 disk did boot, but Glee quickly turned to woe as a new problem quickly became apparent. Instead of simply booting to a login prompt, my modified A1 disk asked me to insert a root file system floppy. If we look at how the factory A1 disk works, we can see the normal kernel startup sequence, followed by this rather critical line, loading RAM disk. Under normal circumstances, Softlanding Linux loads its installation system into memory. This is to allow the A1 disk to be ejected after system startup. Without a working RAM disk, the system would simply crash if I removed A1. Unlike later Linux kernels, RAM disks do not take the form of an intRD or intramfs. Instead, they are literally a copy of the Minix file system in memory as seen here in ramdisk.c. This also explains A1's file system choice. When trying to debug unexpected behavior, it's usually easiest to start with any on-screen messages. In this case, I started by searching the kernel source tree for the loading RAM disk string, and then tracing backwards. By doing so, we can see that the decision to load a RAM disk is determined by the RAM disk size parameter. Tracing back further, we can see that the RAM disk size is loaded from something called OX1F8. However, if we look in lilo.conf, we can see that the RAM disk size is indeed set correctly. So what is going on here? As it turns out, in these early versions of Linux, parameters like RAM disk size are set as a series of bits in the Z-image file itself. We can see this if we load the file in a hex editor. The size of the RAM disk is an integer loaded from offset 0x1f8. This value is the number of kilobytes to load into memory. By setting this to 1440, the size of a high-density 3.5-inch floppy disk, I was able to get the system booting with a RAM disk. This behavior is documented in the man page of the rdev command, which also lists all the offsets that have special behavior. One thing that confused me though was how Softlanding's original kernel works. An examination of the stock kernel from the A1 disk shows that the RAM disk size is set to all zeros, which shouldn't work. It is possible that Softlanding has an undocumented modification to their kernel. If anyone can provide further insight, I'd be happy to hear it in the comments below. Regardless, I now had an A1 floppy that could work with larger hard disks. Now it was time to make the other 30 disks. I bought a 30 pack of floppy disks specifically for this video, but what came were 3 10 packs. Worse, the disk quality was a lot lower than I hoped, with cheap plastic shutters and flimsy shells. Still, these should work. I'll switch to my modern laptop so we can get a nice time lapse of making every floppy disk.
Yes! Finally! The last disc. Oh man, that took a while. Okay. Now I get to do it all over again. I still have to install it. Okay. Let's get set up for that.
All I can say was that was a long and tedious process, but we're ready for installation. As we learned in part 1, Softlanding expects a DAWS bootloader in the master boot record. At the moment, Windows NT is installed on this ThinkPad, so it's time for a format and reinstall. I have my MS-DAWS 6.2 floppy disks ready to go. I'll make a 64 megabyte partition so I'll have some wiggle room in case I need to load in a kernel. With DAWS installed, it was time to reboot and get this show on the road. With the modified A1 disk, I was able to create the root and swap partitions without issue. During part 1, I had forgotten that it was much more common in this era to have dedicated swap partitions than to use a swap file. After formatting, I'm prompted to remove A1 and insert A2. Just when I think everything is going smoothly, disk I/O errors go screaming by and I'm forced to cancel. What happened? Initially, I thought there was a problem with writing the disk, so I tried to recreate it. That, however, simply caused my USB floppy drive to spew I/O errors. The disk had seemingly gone bad. I didn't have a lot of spare disks, and I was concerned that others may have failed. My first thought was to reboot under DAWS on the ThinkPad. The DAWS format command performs a low-level format with floppy disks, rewriting the magnetic surface of each disk. Format completed successfully, but I had heard the disk head seek several times, which is an indication that a sector had failed. ScanDisk also showed a long line of Bs marking bad clusters, and CheckDisk showed that 18 kilobytes had been marked as bad sectors. I was about to reach into the spare floppy disk box when I had a thought. With the exception of the A1 disk, all of Softlanding's floppy disks are FAT12 formatted with normal files. They can be read and written to under DAWS without special utilities. I decided on a hunch to simply copy the A2 files to the reformatted floppy and retry the installation. I will tell you this, folks, I was gobsmacked to see that it worked. I had hoped that had been my glitch for this project, and I soldiered onward. Just to be greeted in the form of another disk failure in the form of B7. Just when I thought I was going to have to abort, the install managed to continue and prompted for B8. From the error messages, it had simply skipped the files in the disk, and the only thing on B7 were Emacs and Elm, so it wasn't a critical failure. Slightly shaken, I kept the installation going. Free disks from the end, X8 also decided that it was going to error out. After grinding away in futility, sysinstall gave up and asked for X9. It and X10 installed without issue. I was fairly confident that despite the bad disks, I still had enough of the system installed to actually boot. When prompted, I configured Lilo for dual booting and made the system boot disk. Finally, I was prompted to reboot. Here was the first real test to see if everything had worked. I was elated to see the Lilo prompt and Softlanding boot up on the first try. In truth, I was not expecting that. I also confirmed I could still boot into DOS. All I had to do now was figure out what to do about B7 and X8. On a whim, I tried running Norn utilities and ScanDisk on both these disks. ScanDisk actually crashed with a runtime error. Norn utilities worked a little better, but on both disks, they had large lines of bad clusters. Subsequent scans showed that the disk itself was simply degrading. In short, both disks had become hopelessly corrupt. What's the lesson learned here? While some floppy disks can remain usable for decades like my original DAWs disks, others can fail in minutes. I should make an important note here. If you're trying to recover data from a disk you care about, you should use a device like a SuperCard Pro. I have some vintage software I need to archive and I'm hoping to demonstrate the SuperCard Pro in the near future. Never try using ScanDisk or similar utilities to try and repair dead floppies. You can make a bad situation worse. That interlude aside, I still had to finish installing SLS. Fishing out two known working disks, I rewrote B7 and X8. Afterwards, I used sysinstall to reinstall all the packages on both those disks. This finally gave me a complete install of SLS on my ThinkPad. I was even able to start X and try and play Lander on a passive matrix display. You might notice that the display is not running in full size. The LCD on this ThinkPad has a native display resolution of 800 by 600. As I detailed in the previous video, X needs a special driver to use anything beyond the base VGA resolution of 640 by 480. Unfortunately, this ThinkPad has a NeoMagic display chip and not a more common Circus Logic chip which I could easily adapt X for. While X does support NeoMagic chips, both those chips and their drivers are several years newer than the version of X that shipped with SLS. While it may be possible to write the necessary driver, it would be a major undertaking. The alternative, upgrading X, would likely require so many changes to SLS it would essentially become a new distribution. That being said, it might still be an interesting project for another time. In summary, with enough determination, it was in fact possible to get SLS working on this ThinkPad. With the rewritten ATA driver, it would work with hard disks up to 8 GB in size, and it would be relatively straightforward to go further. I do hope this 250 subscriber special lives up to your expectations, and thank you all to the folks that helped make this possible. The next major milestone is 500. I have a few ideas for what that special might be, but I'd like to hear your ideas below. As usual, feel free to hit me up on Twitter or come join me on Discord. I'd appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button and leave a like if you enjoyed this video. Until the next time, this is NCommander, signing off. Bye-bye. If you enjoyed this video. Until the next time, this is NCommander.
I don't have the freaking remote with me. Okay. That's gonna be a thing. Hang on. Mute! There we go. Alright. There we go. Now I'm gonna pop up again here. I thought I had it next to me, but it's not. It wasn't actually there this entire time. That's also what she said. There we go. Here we are. So yes, that was the latest pre-recorded video that NCommander made that he also posted in his YouTube, which I'm going to attempt to go back to and get the link for that. Again, normally he has a show on our DEFCON 2.1 live stream that goes on Wednesday at 8 p.m. It's called Hack All NCommander. However, He's been having quite a month, which is why he hasn't been on the last 2 or 3 episodes. And we decided to do this special because it's just been driving him crazy. Again, we hope to have him on next week on Wednesday at 8 p.m. But we would rather have him get through life and have the mental and physical capacity to do things, you know, like live and eat and stuff like that. So once that happens, we'll get there. Do I have an echo? So once that happens, there's a slight echo. I think I might know what it is. Let's see. Because every time it echoes like that, I know exactly what it is. Basically, I have to sample desktop audio in order to run audio and video through, like when we look at web browser stuff. And I forgot to turn that off with the internal videos. Hopefully we won't make this type of mistake on Friday. It seems like we make a crap ton of mistakes on our normal shows, and then when we do our live streams, they're like nearly perfect. Unless we're changing major platforms, which we might do again. So yeah, that was NCommander's video about torturing himself with floppies in Linux. It's proof that if you bang your head hard enough against the wall, that you might not have a head left, but you'll get through the wall eventually. And yeah, so I wanted to air that for all you people who miss NCommander out there like we do on the stream. And I think he's going to be at our meeting physically Friday, so you'll probably see him then, but he won't have his normal show during that. The last thing I want to do is I want to air something really special. It's really long. It's probably going to take... We're probably going to be here at like 2:30, 2:40 with this. I'm just running the video, and then anyone who's left in chat, we're going to raid a place. Now, that might be woke again. We might have usually I notice a lot of hackers stream way late at night, past midnight. So usually once we're done streaming, another stream pops up. So if there's another hacker on there, hey, thank you, Jimbury, for following us. Hack the Planet. Thank you for that. I hope you see our meeting next Friday from 5 to 8 p.m. online. And if you're in Jersey City, you can go out and meet us at Subculture in Jersey City. But you have to RSVP there. Go to our website to find that out. That's defcon201.org. It's a video I want to play. So I'm part of a group that gets a ton of webinars from Black Hat USA. Black Hat USA is, Black Hat itself is like the corporate version of DEF CON. It's started by Dark Tangent. At Black Hat, they call him Jeff Moss by his legal name. And now they do them around the world. But Black Hat USA is always the big one. They also have one in Europe and Asia and the Moon and stuff like that. Hopefully they haven't gotten hacked on Twitter yet. Anyhow, but I get these webinars and I save all of them and I'll replay them back. I've done that in meetings, and I'm doing that this meeting with a new one that's going to happen tomorrow. And the thing is, the reason I do that is because there's a lot of people who don't see these things because a lot of times they're invite only. I think they recently opened them up where if you go to the website, you can click on them and get them. But okay, but where was I going with this? But I try to air them, especially older ones, because a lot of them are invite only, and I've asked them, they have no problems re-airing them because they're technically public. So I'm gonna air this one. Hopefully, I don't get demonetized or like we make money off of this. We don't get like kicked off or censored because of this. And all I will talk about with this one is this one involves relink with a 1, aka Dave Kennedy. Yes, that Dave effing Kennedy, the one that runs DerbyCon, and who, funny enough, because of arbitrary reasons, is one of the few people that has ever blocked DEFCON 201. So that's fascinating. I hope he unblocks us one day, because that was just dumb. It was just, we were making a joke, and even other people at DerbyCon weren't mad. Even when they didn't think our joke was funny, they were like, "Ah, yeah, haha, peanut gallery," and he just rage quit. So I don't know what was going on there. Made a really good tool that I love and promote all the time called the Social Engineers Toolkit. Love that tool. But I'm going to play a video that he did for Black Hat USA. If I remember correctly, you can't find this on YouTube. He didn't do this at a convention. This was an online webinar that you had to RSVP for, being part of a Black Hat USA online group. So for most of you guys, it's going to be new. It's pretty long. I believe it lasts for an hour. So when I get back, I'm going to congratulate everyone who's watching the stream. So, and let's learn from the guy who made the Social Engineers Toolkit and what he has to say about InfoSec and computer security. And who's ever left in chat, we're going to go raid another channel. So once again, Even though I'm going to repeat this, thank you for watching this DEFCON 2-1 special in lieu of a Hack All NCommander. We're going to try to have him back on next week. Hopefully he feels better both physically and mentally to do so, and his life would not be on fire. If you do want to probably see him and the rest of us this Friday starting at 5 p.m. To 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we will be having our meeting, and it will be broadcast on this live stream. So we hope you check us out in barely 2 days. So without further ado, I'm Side Pocket, and this is pre-recorded Dave Kennedy doing his Black Hat USA thing. Let's hear what he has to say.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending upon where you are in the world, and welcome to the latest installment in the Black Hat webcast series, Leveraging Red for Defense, brought to you by Black Hat, Domain Tools, and UBM. My name is Steve Paul. I'm with Black Hat, your moderator today. We have just a few announcements before we begin. This webcast is designed to be interactive between you and our presenters, and later in the program, we'll ask for your feedback. There is no dial-in required. You're participating in listen-only mode, where slides will be automatically synchronized with audio from your computer speakers. If you're calling in, please dial your access code, close out of all unnecessary applications, and disable your pop-ups. We strongly encourage participation and are happy to take your questions and comments. You can participate in our Q&A by asking questions at any time. Simply type your question into the text box located at the bottom left of the screen. PDF copies of our presentations can be found on the Black Hat website over the next few business days. And if you're experiencing any technical difficulties, please refer to the help link in the upper right-hand corner of your console. And now on to our presentation, Leveraging Red for Defense. Discussing today's topic will be David Kennedy, founder of TrustedSec, Binary Defense Systems, and DerbyCon. Then we'll hear from our sponsor presenter, Taylor Wilkes-Pierce, Senior Sales Engineer at Domain Tools. First, we'll hear from David. And over to you.
Thanks, Steve. Appreciate it. Hopefully everybody can see my screen right there, and appreciate everybody hopping on the call today, talking about leveraging Red for Defense. This talk is one of my favorites because it dives into a lot of the struggles that we face today when it comes to cybersecurity. If you look at what we see from most companies and organizations that we go into, is that the reliance on the tools and the technology over exceeds the over reliance on the analysts and what the analysts are actually doing from a day-to-day perspective. And today what we're going to be diving into is discussing what that means on leveraging Red and what Red really means and what Red can be utilized with, more of the offensive type of techniques can be used within your enterprise to really bolster your defenses. You know, one of the biggest things that we see for most organizations when we go into them is that when we go into a company that does more simulations or attacks across their infrastructure time and time again, it's much more difficult for us as attackers to compromise their infrastructure, to gain access to their infrastructure than companies that do not. So today's talk will be diving into some of those different areas there. Just a brief background on myself. I'm Dave Kennedy, as Steven mentioned, founder and CEO of TrustedSec and Binary Defense. TrustedSec is an information security consulting company based out of Cleveland, Ohio, with folks all over the world. And then Binary Defense is a 24/7 security operations center with our own managed endpoint detection and response components that we focus on identifying indicators of compromises within organizations. But a little bit of background on myself. I've been in the information security space now for 19 years, and my area of focus is understanding attack patterns, circumventing technology and products, and really trying to understand what adversaries are doing out there from a defensive perspective to get companies better with identifying specific threats. So might as well get started now. The term red teaming is a fairly old term within the security space, and you hear the terms red teams, blue teams, purple teams, a lot of different terminologies that are out there. Most of these have been around for quite a few years. In fact, the term purple teaming has been around since about 2007, so looking at about 11 years or so now, or 12 years for terminologies. But the actual methodologies and thought patterns behind what a red team is, what a blue team is, what a purple team is, has shifted over the past few years. If you look at tradition of what we kind of, or where we're at now today versus where we were 10 years ago, 10 years ago, the whole methodology around red teams were to simulate an attack against an organization through any means possible, whether that's physical, whether that's breaking in through a web application, whether that's through social engineering, essentially building threat models against an organization and being able to attack them in a way that allows an attacker to simulate an attacker against an organization. And what would happen in those types of situations and scenarios is that the red team would always win. They would break in some way, shape, or form. They'd completely destroy the blue team. They'd walk out feeling amazing that they just crushed this company and brought the company to their knees. We're able to steal all their intellectual property, do all the super crazy, awesome secret stuff that red teams do. And then from there, they'd walk away, and then you'd get all these technical findings, and then the red team would then come back in, a year later, do the exact same thing. And it was really this cyclical effect of going in and smashing and trying to keep up with the types of attacks that were out there. But what's changed over the past 10 years is that red teams can still be that type of wedge or that type of adversarial simulation, but the focus really isn't on trying to smash an organization or compromise them. It's really trying to understand where the current organization's capabilities are, both from a prevention and a detection standpoint, and then really trying to build capabilities in place to withstand those types of attacks and to continue to raise those bars. And so when you look at red teams, it's a collaborative approach with blue teams to really understand the organization's maturity level, understanding the threat models as well, and simulating attacks that can directly be turned into either new detections or new ways to prevent specific threats against an organization. And so the terminologies really have shifted over the years from a smash and grab covert, under the radar, trying to get access to everything, to really trying to make the blue team or the organization better to withstand specific attacks. And that is one of the most important things that you can take out of this presentation today, is that understanding that when we are going after an organization from a red teaming perspective, our objectives aren't to destroy or smash this company. It's to make the other organization better. It's to make the detections better. It's to make visibility better within the organization, and to understand that, hey, maybe we have some technological limitations, or maybe the tools that we're using aren't firing the way that they should. A validation of all those programs to really make that an absolutely better way to run those types of simulations. And as I mentioned before, the rationality really has changed. The simulations that you conduct now oftentimes aren't just going in, running a test, and then from there producing the findings to a blue team. A lot of times it's more of a purple approach where you have red and blue working together side by side, running through specific attacks or simulations. There's a lot of buzz around the minor attack framework right now, right? Being able to run specific techniques that are out there. One thing I caution on by leveraging something like MITRE, for example, it's a great way to break down specific attack cycles and looking through the whole life cycle of an attack, and I think it's a phenomenal resource for that. But one of the things that we see commonly in a lot of companies out there is that they'll leverage the MITRE attack framework as a way of running specific commands and then building detections off of those specific commands, and not necessarily focusing on the behavior of those specific techniques that are being leveraged. And a good example is, I know Jeff Moss, who founded Black Hat and DEFCON, was last year, not this previous Black Hat, but the year before that. He said right before he introduced the opening keynote that as an industry, we talk about the tactics, techniques, and procedures of attackers, or the TTPs, as many refer to. The tactics, techniques, and procedures are things that we focus on, but as an industry, we solely focus on the techniques themselves. And why that's damaging to us from a blue team perspective is that if I manipulate or change my attack in any way, shape, or form, then I'm able to circumvent those detection criteria instead of looking at the behavior itself. If you look at one of the common techniques that you traditionally see from an adversary like Russia or China or other organizations, United States, for example, more adversary simulations, or if you look at more higher end threat models, you're going to see a lot of techniques around like living off the land binaries and scripts, which are legitimate Windows applications that allow remote code execution in a lot of cases that are code signed by Microsoft. So, common ones you'll see is like Regis UR32, MSHTA, CBD, CSE, Mavenjack. There's a number of these binaries that are installed by default in your computer that allow for remote code execution. Well, if you take Regis UR32, for example, there's a couple flags you can use in there, /s/n, and there's also one /I, which you can specify a remote website to download a scriptlet object to then execute the code itself. So it'll go and download that the scriptlet object. It'll then execute that code and then give you code execution, which oftentimes evades security. A good example of evasion on that is that Windows Defender now, instead of Windows itself removing that specific functionality out of Registry SW2 that's not used, what they have done is they disallowed that specific command line argument. So you can't run a /I with a website address in there, or else Windows Defender will flag it as being malicious. However, if you go and download a scriptlet object just like you would with that /I parameter by using anything else, there's a number of ways. You can download files directly with Excel. You can download them with WinWord. You can download them with BitsAdmin. There's a number of ways that you can download files through command line orientation, command line arguments. And you could just download that scriptlet object and still execute it with that /I, just as long as you're not using the HTTP flag. So, as a defender, if I'm looking specifically just for that /I command, or I'm looking for specifically a Registry SW2 combined with an HTTP site, I'm not going to necessarily see those. And so with red team simulations, it's really trying to get down to what is the actual attack, what are the tactics that we use as attackers, the behaviors that we exhibit as we do that, and the procedures that we operate by. And lo and behold, the techniques kind of fall in line with those. And so the shift really from techniques and more so to behavior becomes really, really important. If you look at a traditional security operations center, a traditional security operations center might have a SIM, might have an EDR platform, they might have other components that they use for visibility. And a traditional security operations center will typically have a number of SOC analysts ranging from juniors to seniors, SOC leads, things like that. And you get an alarm that comes into the environment. The alarm comes into the environment, they open up that alarm, they determine whether or not it's a false positive, and then from there, they open or close a ticket based on the specific information that is readily available for them. And that's the traditional security operations center method. The problem with that is that we'll see time and time again where we go into an organization or company where we're simulating an attacker and there's no alarms whatsoever ever triggered either by their EDR platform or by the security operations center. That's because, again, if we change or shift a little bit of our techniques in a way that circumvents the way that they wrote that correlation or the way that the EDR platform looks for a specific indicator of compromise, you completely go unnoticed in their environment. The security operations center doesn't see that. That's where a lot of the talk around threat hunting comes into play. Groups and teams really focused on trying to be more proactive in an environment, to be able to look for indicators in the environment, looking for unusual commands, looking for PowerShell execution, looking for service creations, looking for network communications, DNS logs, going through all of those different data sets to really look for unusual activity within an environment. One example of where a blue team that had gone through simulations had really nailed us. And we were working on this company for quite a long time, and we had developed a custom toolkit framework, an exploitation framework that leveraged more of zero-day techniques, not actual 0 days that gave you remote code execution, but techniques that had not been discovered previously to get us remote code execution onto the system itself. And so we were able to compromise one specific user, and it was a very targeted attack against a user that had access to the data that we needed access to. And we completely went underneath the radar, never detected, which is to be expected. We were expecting that to be detected. But within 7 minutes, they shut off our shell. And we no longer had access to the company. And we were scratching our heads trying to figure out what happened. How do we even get detected? We weren't doing anything unusual. And the thing that they flagged us on is that they had baselined their environment in 2 categories, technical users and non-technical users based off of role and position within the company. And in that specific case, we had issued an IP config. We weren't dropping down to a command shell. We weren't dropping into cmd.exe, but we initiated an IP config to see what network we were on, to see if we could move laterally to a system that we needed access to. And that IP config being executed on a non-technical asset triggered an alarm for an analyst to actually go and look and say, well, that's unusual behavior. Bob and Sales shouldn't be executing this specific command. We should investigate this. And that came through a very specific simulation that they had done before. So moving away from the traditional SOC piece of alarms coming in, which is still very a necessary endeavor in a lot of companies, but moving more towards, hey, let's sit down with Red and understand how these attacks work and the behaviors that we exhibit. Why would Bob and Sales ever be dropping into PowerShell, for example, in the first place? PowerShell is a full-fledged programming language. Does Bob and Sales actually need a full-fledged programming language? And so shifting more away from traditional SOC techniques where there's a specific attack that probably has a high false positive ratio to moving more towards behavior, which again can have a high false positive ratio, but making the interpretation there. A good example of some good behaviors: why is PowerShell ever communicating out to the internet in the first place? Again, probably going to have some false positives, but can you whittle down those baselines in your environment and start to understand what is normal behavior and what is not? Why is regSphere32 communicating out to the internet? Don't care about the parameters. What about MSHTA ever executing, or even regSphere32 ever executing in the first place? Those are things that we want to take a look at in our environment to say these are unusual behaviors, bubble those up to analysts, and let's simulate those with the red team to understand ways to circumvent those. One of the tools that I wrote was called Magic Unicorn, and Magic Unicorn is a PowerShell exploitation framework that circumvents what we call encoded command detection. So one of the common ways that you can get code execution through PowerShell is to get around what are called software restriction policies is by basically using a coded command, which is your code cast Unicode and then base64 encoded, and then you execute that. And so for that one specifically, I was on a customer site, and they were looking for every variation of encoded command within PowerShell. And if you're looking for just specific commands in PowerShell, there's so many ways to defeat those detections out there that as a red teamer, we know how to do. So for example, we used toString and getValue to basically use encoded command without ever calling encoded command in the first place. So completely circumvented their detection criteria. So again, looking more at that behavior than anything else. And so if you look at prevention in an organization, when you talk about simulations and going and doing something, prevention takes a long time to implement. I don't know of any company that can make sweeping changes around application whitelisting in high integrity mode overnight. It takes time to actually go and make changes in your environment that require prevention changes, testing, things like that. And so detection is one of those areas where, as a blue teamer, you have to be able to move very quickly to write new detections for new threats or new attack vectors that are coming in your environment. And I'm not talking about hash values or IP addresses or things like that. I'm talking about real, specific types of tactics that are being used in your environment and the techniques that are being used to actually go and employ those. Those specific areas there are so important for an organization to go and actually do. For most organizations, the basics are still a problem. There's still legacy systems that are employed in place that are still flat network infrastructures. Patch management still becomes an issue. If you look at some breach statistics, 74% of all breaches that occurred last year occurred from a breach that was a CV of 6 months or older. All of these things, still become a problem. We're usually not even in a place in a security program to handle advanced threats. And so running through those simulations and having a red team that can actively go and look at the current level of your organization and use the types of techniques against that basic level becomes really important. Some basics here, just things that I would recommend you do in your environment that are basics. So these are basic things that companies and organizations should already have in place to stop a lot of the low-hanging fruit that we see out there today. For example, PowerShell. Do regular users really need access to a full-fledged programming language? Lock that down. There's ways within group policy with software restriction policies, app locker, device guard, ways that you can lock down PowerShell execution for regular users. Still allow your developers to use it, still allow your programmers to go and use it. Those are the things that you can still do, your administrators. You can block PowerShell directly from there. Same thing for unsigned executables. Again, device guard. You can block non-code signed executables from user profile directories. That would stop a large percentage of malware infections when it comes to droppers that are going and download executables. Constrained language mode with PowerShell, way to lock down and limit PowerShell in a way that allows you to really minimize the attack surface on there. So many different options, again, from a basic level, from a protection standpoint, that can make a huge difference. Please enable the Windows firewall internally. That's like the most basic step you can do for very easy network segmentation. If you look at most compromises, when we compromise a endpoint, that endpoint becomes compromised and we try to move laterally to another system. So from one system to the next until we can get access to the data that we need. By just enabling Windows firewall internally just to user or workstation traffic can substantially reduce our ability to move laterally to these systems that we need to get access to. It doesn't make you impervious, but it makes it harder for us as attackers to actually go and do certain tasks or techniques that we want to actually go after. Something like Sysmon, for example, is great. If you're not familiar with Sysmon, it's a free tool from sysinternals from Mark Rusenovich's team, and it exposes something called kernel-level event log tracing for Windows, which is a way to get some very great alarms in a configurable option. So the type of data that you're sending back can be configured in a way for you to be able to build some high-fidelity alarms directly through simulations, which works out really well. From a detection standpoint, threat hunting is always an amazing effort, especially as you're going through different simulations. But you have to have visibility first. If you don't have visibility in your environment, you're never going to detect those specific types of threats or techniques that are out there today. And so we talked about simulations and emulations. There's a little bit of a debate right now going on in the security industry around whether or not tools do more damage than good. I'm a huge advocate and fan of releasing tools in a responsible method, obviously not dropping 0 days that can cause impact to systems. But when you're releasing new tools, researchers release tools in order to show that there are absolute vulnerabilities or ways that attackers can leverage that are either actively being exploited in the wild or might not be, or might not have been disclosed in previous terms. And so tools are a great way for us in the industry to say, okay, how do we simulate these types of attacks? I'm obviously the author of the Social Engineer Toolkit, Magic Unicorn, which is that exploitation framework that I talked about. And I can honestly tell you that I've seen a number of corporations and companies implement them into their tools and simulations to really test how real-world simulations can apply in their environment. And it's something that we drastically need. We need more researchers. We need more people pumping out tools and techniques to really ensure that we can continuously get better out there in the industry. So those things have a major accomplishment when it comes to the overall security in programs. And so for me, red and blue working together, which is the definition of purple teaming, but it doesn't mean that you have to do a purple team exercise. It means the two teams working together, the sheer amount of gains that you get from a detection standpoint is substantial. And what I mean by that is that if a red team is sitting next to a blue teamer, we do this all the time where we'll sit through engagements with customers, and the blue team's sitting there and you walk out with let's just say 10 or 15 new high-grade detections, that makes your program just that much better when it comes to understanding the types of attacks and techniques. And the term on purple teaming, by the way, which seems to get kind of missed out there, is that purple teaming in its basic concept is just red and blue working together. It doesn't mean I'm going through a 1 month exercise with the blue team. It doesn't mean I'm going through a 2-day exercise with the blue team. It just means a collaborative relationship between the red team, which is simulating an attack against your organization, to go and do it. Common implementations of purple teams are, maybe once a month. You go through and you run through, 3 new attacks, and then you work with the blue team to build detections around those 3 new attacks. Maybe you grab the MITRE ATT&CK framework and you try a couple out of those, you try a couple custom ones, and you continuously build up your security program through those simulations across your environment. And those really, really are effective in what we see today for a lot of companies helping out there. And as I mentioned again, the industry changed, and there's a lot of terminologies out there that really get missed. Red teams often supplemented for a penetration test. A penetration test is always often supplemented for a vulnerability assessment. These are all terms that are pretty standard in the industry, but change quite often based on who you're talking to. And so if you look at the differences, a vulnerability assessment is really looking at the vulnerabilities that haven't been patched or basic misconfigurations that are out there. A penetration test is more of a simulated effort against an organization to simulate what an attack would look like. And it's, usually it's not a no holds barred. It's kind of a simulation more so against the external entity, internal on the network, those types of things there. And then a red team is more of a building out your threat models, understanding your adversaries of who would target you against your organization, and trying to simulate or replicate the types of techniques and attacks that they would use against the company in order to better yourself to withstand those types of threats in the future. And I think a lot of the thought pattern around going in and smashing and grabbing is, again, really a lot of that old rock star mentality that the penetration testers had, the mistake that they had originally, where red teams would go in and just own everything and then walk out with the massive reports, and then you'd come back and do the same thing year after year after year. And so again, a lot of that has really changed as we have progressed throughout the industry, and really what we've actually done is really like more of that collaborative approach to really work together. And a lot of folks may not recognize, well, how do you take the results from a red team and apply that directly to something like the blue team to be able to run detections? And that's where something like MITRE can provide a really great framework for you, where you can break MITRE into multiple categories, whether that's exploitation, privileged escalation, lateral movement, exfiltration of data, you have a lot of different phases within an attack that you can start to build out. You start to map all of these different techniques out there, and you start to map the specific tactics that are out there and the procedures that we operate by, and you can build out more of a balanced scorecard across your enterprise to say, okay, in these phases, we are doing very well in coverage. In these phases, we are not doing very well, and there's specific reasons for that. And then running simulations to test the effectiveness of if whether or not you think that you're doing well in this area and you're really not, being able to apply or prove that or improve it in some way that allows you to really get better with what you're doing. Collaboration and sharing is so important in this industry. I can't emphasize it enough. Without understanding attacker techniques, you cannot build a successful security program. I want to reemphasize that. Without understanding attacker techniques, you cannot build a successful security program. And why that's important to understand is that by purchasing a specific tool, by running a specific tool, isn't going to give you a good security program. Tools are often, when a tool is purchased, it's often to supplement a weak security program, and the implementation of that product is usually where a company fails. It doesn't mean that the product is bad. Buying a product also isn't bad in itself, but leveraging that tool and expecting it to understand what an attacker is doing, how it manipulates or goes after an organization, it's not going to do that for you. It's going to be some very basic detections. It's going to be some very basic ways of looking at specific adversaries, and it's going to provide maybe some value to you initially, but if you don't have the people behind it to morph that tool into something that is going to be legitimate, something that is going to continue to grow, you're going to be you're not going to be leveraging that tool in a way that allows you to be consistent across your enterprise. And so it really comes down to the people. If you don't have good people, you're not going to have a good security program. The tools are irrelevant when it comes to that. And sharing knowledge within groups, it doesn't mean it's just one specific group. The red team working with the threat hunters, the security operations center, the blue team in different capacities that run your vulnerability management program. All of those components really make up everything that we are considered today to be more of that collaborative approach to an organization or group. And so again, red teams working together to really be better at what they're doing. And I mentioned this before, but the focus on behavior is the number one most important thing to take away today, and using the red team and blue team to be able to get down to that behavior. Again, why is PowerShell communicating out to the internet in the first place? Not invoke expression or looking for encoded command or other things that are out there. Looking at the behavior that something exhibits becomes really, really important. And so visibility, if you don't have visibility in your environment, you're not going to be able to look for behavior. Getting endpoint logs is an absolute must. You have to have endpoint logs in your environment, or else you're not going to have the visibility that you need to be able to identify specific threats. You know, as most of us know on this call, endpoints are probably one of the most important pieces out there to have visibility into. If you don't have endpoint logs, you're not doing good detection across your enterprise. Endpoint logs are an absolute necessity. It's one of your highest risk factors from an organization. And I understand it increases your licensing for whatever SIM you're leveraging. But it's one of those things that you have to have visibility into, or else you're not going to be able to understand good behavior that happens from specific attacks. And so, you know, as an attacker, as I mentioned before, if I customize my attack at all, I will traditionally circumvent most companies today. It's not every company, but I will traditionally completely circumvent detections today. And so, as an attacker, modifying, changing, building my own, taking something that's been published, modifying in some way, throwing some carrots in there, or encoding it in a different way, all of those will typically circumvent traditional security programs today. And I'm going to show you a demonstration here just now on circumventing Windows Defender. Now, this is not a knock on Windows Defender. I think it's a good baseline product for antivirus, and antivirus has its own limitations. I would consider it a low bar way for doing detection in your environment or even prevention in your environments. You're hoping other people that they've seen have already gotten hit, and that you're not the first to be hit by a specific area. So that's kind of my thoughts on antivirus, is that it's their lowest bar, I guess, of defense within an organization. But one thing I want to show you and kick off, and then we'll turn it back over here in just a minute, is this is leveraging Unicorn, the tool that I mentioned before that I wrote, a PowerShell exploitation tool. And in here, I'm going to run and develop or produce a Windows Meterpreter shell. And what it's doing is it's basically taking Meterpreter shellcode, which is a very commodity based shellcode out there. Everybody should be picking up on this from a detection standpoint. And I'm going to wrap it into PowerShell. Now here, I'm just going to decode it very quickly. and I'm just going to show the raw example here, and then I'm going to have it get picked up by what's called the anti-malware scan interface, which is being scanned by Windows Defender. And the anti-malware scan interface is a way to get down to its rawest form possible right before it executes the Python interpreter. So we're just going to copy this here. We're going to copy this over to our PowerShell interpreter on the Windows machine just to execute this to show that it's actually getting picked up by antivirus. So we'll paste this over here. And on the other side, we're going to create a listener. So once we actually execute this, our hope is that we get an interpreter session that comes back to us. Now, when we hit play here, we can see here that it's actually getting blocked by the AMSI engine, most specifically Windows Defender. And let me pause it here really fast. With Windows Defender, you have what's called AMSI scan string and AMSI scan buffer, the two most prominent methods that are going to be called for this specific function within AMSI. And it's basically scanning the code to see whether or not it matches a certain criteria of being malicious or not, or what Windows Defender signatures have written into it. And all we're going to do here is we're going to see what part was actually triggering the antivirus alarm. Was it our last command here? Was it a certain part within within the code itself? What's actually triggering this to be malicious? And so I'll go ahead and hit play again. And here we'll see, if we just delete this last section here around invoke expression or IEX, it gets around it. We no longer have an alarm or no longer have a specific warning message here. Now, if we modify this, okay, well, A equals, we're just going to copy the command AX equals A, the variable A, and then we're going to use this command here. We're going to go ahead and play, and we're going to see whether or not this actually works. And as you can see here, we get a full interpreter shell, circumvent AMSI, just by modifying the last command in our environment. And this is basically how easy it is for us as attackers to modify our code in some way, shape, or form to get around traditional methods today. Again, EDR platforms, very much the same thing. Modify your techniques so that it doesn't look exactly the same as what we are actually doing. Those are all simple ways that we can do things as an attacker. So in closing, and I'll pass it back over here in just a second. In closing, hopefully you take out of this that when you're looking at leveraging RED in your environment to build better detections, running through simulations that emulate adversaries that match your level of detection to enhance that over time is one of the most effective ways that we see programs be successful and to handle specific threats. Techniques change all the time, tactics change. You know, the procedures that attackers operate by don't change as much, but they do. And making sure that you have a program that can be dynamic in nature to look for those types of patterns in your environment, not relying specifically off of tools, make your program just that much stronger in a way that you can start to withstand a lot of these threats that we see today. When we go into companies, again, time and time after again, if they're running through more emulations or simulations across their environments against their adversaries, it's much more difficult for us as attackers to be successful in those types of environments. We have to really be careful at what we're doing, the commands that we're executing, understanding the environment that we're in. It's a much more meticulous effort that we have to do. So with that, I appreciate it. We're going to pass it back over to go through the next segments of this. Steve, right over to you.
Okay, thanks. Excellent presentation. Our next speaker will be Taylor Wilkes-Pierre, Senior Sales Engineer at Domain Tools. We'll hear from Taylor, and then we'll have our Q&A session at the conclusion. So stay on, and we'll also have a feedback form, and we'll distribute the PDFs of our presentations as well. So without any further ado, Taylor, we're going to send it over to you.
Hey, thank you. Thanks, Steve, and fantastic, Dave. Yeah, my name is Taylor Wilkes-Pierce. I'm a senior sales engineer over at Domain Tools, and we're going to talk about leveraging a red team mindset from a defender side of things. So that's very much that purple mindset that Dave was talking about earlier here. So just a little about Domain Tools up top here. So for us, the proof is always in the data. If you know anything about us, you know we've been collecting valuable data on every single domain on the internet for almost 18 years now. So we want ownership information. We want hosting infrastructure data. MX records, we want SOA records, start of authority records, we want name server infrastructure, we want those SSL certs, we want to grab everything we can get for every domain out there as frequently as we can get it and get that into our data set. So for us, we've got a lot of confidence in our data. By our best guess, we're tracking somewhere in the neighborhood of 95% of currently registered domains that are out there. We'll call it around 350 million active domains today. It's timely, right? So we want to pick up everything as quickly as it's registered or we can discover it. And it's comprehensive for us. So, we have persisted this data for over the last nearly 2 decades. You can comb through, our historical records, but also some of our partner data through passive DNS that's been kept over the last 7 or 8 years or so, to really, build out a good profile when you're interested in potential dangerous domain, or just doing some hunting exercises. So we're going to cover a few products today, but we'll keep it fairly light. But, for things to know, for us, Iris Investigation Platform, it allows our customers to dive really, really deeply into our data set. It's the main data set that we are using both in the integration space, our domain risk scores. So we've got machine learning classifiers.
Okay, I'm pretty sure you guys didn't want to listen to ads for the rest of that. I mainly wanted to... Oh, hang on. There we go. I mainly just wanted to show the Dave Kennedy's talks about red teaming there. So that's an example of a Black Hat webcast that sometimes I get invited to, and I usually save them all. And we're going to show one at our meeting this Friday, which is July 17th from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. And right at 5 p.m. we're going to be showing that one that's based on IoT devices. I'm personally really excited for it, and I hope you guys are too. So that was our special stream. We did this in lieu of that again. NCommander, who normally does this amazing show that we have. You can see it on back episodes on whatever streaming platform you're on right now, Twitch TV, DLive, YouTube, or if you want to go down in flames with Mixer, called Hack Alt NCommander, where he does like crazy hacks, usually a lot of retro stuff on the air. We love his show. Everyone really likes his show. And unfortunately, he's been having that type of month, which is why he hasn't been on for the last 2 or 3 episodes. So we decided that instead of doing yet another week of where he's unable to make it because of how, even for COVID standards, how crazy his life has gotten, in a negative way. I'm not going to go into details, but just so you know that. We decided that we would do this special for you, where I always tell all the other people that stream besides me that if you can't get on or whatever, I always have backups. I always have a lot of backup content. And fortunately, not only do we have an upcoming meeting, and I had that NCommander made a new video that you guys haven't seen yet, and I had that Dave Kennedy thing, but also simply that Twitter got hacked today for no reason. So it was actually more eventful than I thought it is, and we went past midnight because of it. And because of that, what I'm going to do is I just made some foods because I'm a growing boy and I also work out again. And so I'm going to go enjoy that. I'm going to rest up. Tomorrow our group's going to do tests at our venue. And then Friday we're going to have the meeting, and we're going to see who shows up to Subculture, and we hope everyone RSVPs and social distances. Otherwise we're throwing you in the Hudson River. And you guys who can't make it can all get to see it live. And we're going to have great talks and 2 workshops on Python and CTF. It's going to be great. You can find all that out at our website, defcon201.org. This is the DEFCON 201 live stream. We are a hacker group in New Jersey, particularly Jersey City, New Jersey, where we meet third Friday of every month normally. But thanks to COVID, we've not only been streaming our meetings, but we've also decided to get into the whole live stream influencer action, as the youngins call it. And we live stream shows now as well. And one of them was supposed to be Hack Alt NCommander, but hopefully we'll have him on next week. If he does show up next week, that's Wednesdays, so next Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. All of our times are Eastern Standard Time because we're in New Jersey. And yeah, we hope to see you at the meeting on Friday, July 17th, starting at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, going all the way until 8, whether it's in person or online. So that was our special in lieu of Alt Hack NCommander. If you want to reach out to us, you can go to our website, defcon201.org. You can also email us on staff at info at defcon201.org. We're really excited for Hackers on Planet Earth 2020 and DEFCON Safe Mode, among other events, and so we're going to be really busy in August, and we hopefully are going to announce some of those things this Friday during our meeting. So thank you for sticking around. My name's Cy Pocket. I'm one of the co-founders of DEFCON 201. If you like what you see here, make sure to hit subscribe or follow on whatever streaming platform you're on, such as Twitch. If it's on Twitch, we see it pop up, and we love shouting those out. We also love talking with our audience. Some of the people that talked today, thank you, DCL Mona. Thank you, Satan My Ninjas. Thank you, who is the person that talked a lot besides NCommander? Pseudo Social Club for being on. For your remainder ones, I'm right now going to pick a live stream that we're going to raid. We usually raid Woke because we want people to keep up on like all the protests and stuff. but we might have an alternative here that we can send you guys, because we follow some gamers, but there might be some hacker things that might be on. I hope Vi doesn't immediately stream after this, because that will drive me up the wall right there. So I think we are. Let's see if we're gonna pick out something besides woke. Let's So I've always wanted to do Maximilian D, but I don't know. You know what? Screw it. Because this is a special, let's raid Sarah Spooks. She's playing Animal Crossing right now. I know it doesn't have anything to do hacker related. I still recommend going to Woke to watch all the protests. We'll raid Woke on Friday. Let's go to the creator dashboard here, because I'm not going to do it through Restream. Stream manager. Go into the chat and let's raid this person. So again, that's our show. We hope to see you this Friday. This is Side Pocket signing out. Peace.